Call this session of the Bridgewater Town Council to order. Can I have everyone please rise and join me in a pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you everyone for coming out here tonight. I just want to start by announcing that this meeting, the Town Council meeting, is also being aired live on Facebook Live. So please go to the town website for a link to that, or through Facebook, I believe. I do not have any direct condolences to share tonight for any veterans, so please, I'll just ask for a moment of silence for all deceased veterans of the town, friends, family members this holiday season. Thank you very much. All right, to start off with, I'll ask for approval of our minutes from the November 12th meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
Motion for approval.
Thank you. Mr. McKinnon, second. Mr. Chase?
Question?
Yes.
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay.
Right there.
Any questions or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's see. I do not have any direct announcements to make this evening or proclamations to make, so we'll jump right into Citizens Open Forum. Due to Mass Open Meeting Law requirements, discussions will not take place during public comment periods. If appropriate, responses to questions and concerns will be given by the town manager at a future town council meeting. I ask those that want to come up and speak, please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes, please.
Okay,
Go
my
right
name
ahead.
is Janice Campbell-Means.
I was going to make a motion to waive our rules to allow Janice Campbell-Means, who's a non-resident,
okay.
to be able to speak at our Citizens Open
I
Forum.
would second that.
And a second by Mr. Chase. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. My name is Janice Campbell-Means. I am Chair of BCCR. First, I want to say thank you to Councilor Chase and Lindy for the order that you have put forth. Two, BCCR has, for the past few years, has had the Pride and Juneteenth flag. And that's all we're asking, is that we get to continue to do that, and that you come up with some solution. That's all we're asking, that you come up with a solution that we can still fly our flags after all these years that you have graciously allowed us to do. Three, Lord Jesus. So I'm very angry because there are individuals that have gone on to Facebook and have basically lied about BCCR. They said that we wanted the American flag, the Pride of Juneteenth, and then the POW. Never said that. Then they said we didn't want the POW at all. We never said that. Go back at all the recordings. Never said it. Everybody's talked about the people and their family, including myself, who have served in the armed forces. Nobody ever said it. You can go back, I don't know, for whatever weeks and look and see that that was never said by anybody in BCCR. The hate that has come off all because of one individual that has lied. And she was called out. And the person gave the facts, sent the link, and all that came back was, well, just as long as we get the POW flag to fly. So you want to lie on some people we've been told to get out of the country, we've been called all kinds of names, and I just want to say, if we're going to have this conversation, let's have this conversation, but let's have it on facts and not have it on lies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next coming up, Ray.
Ray Ajemian, 221 Aldridge Road. I have two issues. First one, very quick. I chair the tree committee, and I just want to, on your agenda, you have the motion to reappoint Blythe Robinson as the interim town manager. And I wish you will do that. As the chair of the tree committee, we have a number of unresolved issues. I've met with Ms. Robinson. She's been open to listening to what we need, and she has tried to help. And so my dealings with her have been very good, and I hope that you reappoint her as the interim town manager. Regarding the flag, I'm also a member of BCCR. I just want to make a couple points. One, I concur with Councillor, Chase's proposal about the flag. If that doesn't go through, then I hope that there is some sort of committee set up so that a compromise can be worked out. But I want to stress one thing, and that is that people not imply that by asking that different flags go up on that pole besides the POW flag, that for some reason we are unpatriotic. I do not regard symbols as being patriotic. Now, that's fine. I don't mind symbols. Why we sing the national Star-Spangled Banner at sporting events, I have no idea. They don't have to. But my point is that is not my idea of patriotism. My idea of patriotism is obeying laws, voting, taking part in government, helping people that are less fortunate than us, trying to make this country a better place. Symbols are nice, but it's not my idea of patriotism. And I would regard it as an insult if people regard BCCR as in some ways unpatriotic because of the fact we want to fly a couple flags concerning people that have been suppressed in this country. So that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Joe, come on up.
Hello, Joseph Gillis, 30 Town Line Circle in Bridgewater. The POW MIA flag was initially conceived in 1971 by Mrs. Michael Hoff, the wife of an officer missing in action during the Vietnam War. By the end of the war, more than 2,500 service members were listed as POW or MIA. Overall, more than 81,000 service members remain unaccounted for or missing in action. On November 7, 2019, President Donald Trump signed Public Law 11667, amending the law regarding the flying the POW MIA flag on federal property. Public Law 11667 designates the POW MIA flag as a symbol of the nation's concern and commitment to achieving the fullest possible outcome of Americans who, having been prisoners of war or missing in action, still remain unaccounted for, and Americans in the future who may become prisoners of war, missing in action, or otherwise unaccounted for as a result of hostile action. President Joseph Biden, September 16, 2021, with a proclamation on National POW MIA Recognition Day, stated, "Every day, the iconic black and white flag, a powerful symbol in recognition of the heroism and sacrifice of American POWs and MIAs, is flown above the White House. It is a mark of reverence and of solidarity with all those who await answers. Each day, this flag flies over memorials and cemeteries, on military installations, at local post offices, and on the front lawns of homes across the nation. The flag remains a symbol of America's commitment to honor the sacrifices of all those who serve. It is with these two actions and messages by our national leaders that Bridgewater should adopt a resolution to fly the POA MIA flag with the American flag at all times." Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Anybody else like to come up and speak? Mrs. Hanson.
Janet Hanson, 665 Pleasant Street. He stole what I was going to read and tell, but I missed the last meeting. I'm waiting to hear for clarification where you're planning on flying. But the POW flag should be flown at all times like the American flag, and it's supposed to be under the American flag. No other flag should go under the, any other flag like the state flag should be underneath the POW. If you're not going to put them on the same pole, then the POW flag needs to be to the left, the right I forget, there's a way of displaying it, but they need to be in a certain way. And, there's no need of it not being up all the time. You go anywhere else and it is. And as he said, President Trump at the time did sign in law that it needs to be flown at all times on federal property. Before, it was just going to be on certain holidays. So I don't really see why this needs to be a big discussion, big deal. It should be just automatic. It's a federal thing, and it shouldn't be any problem. If I'm understanding correctly, I think you're going to be doing it at the Moore Memorial, not on the Academy building. But I'm waiting to hear for clarification of that. As far as the Pride flag, Juneteenth flag, I have no problems with those, but I don't think if they could have their own pole, that would be better, less controversy for people. That's my suggestion. And then I saw that you're going to be talking about Administrative Code, Section 14, citizen comments. I see that you've crossed off, because you say for open meeting law, to strictly comply with open meeting law, you want to have it where you can't discuss anything. And I think that should be put back if you want to tweak it a little bit. I can see not discussing something major, because it would have to be on an agenda for open meeting law so people can hear what's going on. The only problem is I'm finding that we don't always get those answers. They're not given to the town manager to have or put on the agenda. We have to wait a long time or never to hear the answers to some of the major questions. But for something simple, and I've said it just as simple, like, is the shirt on you blue? That's a simple question. You don't need to give it to the town manager. Just a clarification question should be able to be responded, instead of just having us ask a clarification question and then stares and never hearing the answer. And if it can't be answered right then, which it should be, perhaps at the end when the counselors have their own comments, that would be the time to answer. Simple questions, not a big agenda question, but simple questions. So I don't agree with that, and I know others, don't. I get it, you don't want to have a conversation. Is that 5 seconds? So I have something else I want to talk about, but maybe I'll come up later or at the end. But I knew I wouldn't have time to do everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Please come on up.
Hi, Karen Siegel, Three Rivers Drive. Basically, the last two covered it all. What I want to say, that the POW flag should remain in the front of this building. As far as the alternate flags, that's fine. Can we find an alternate solution, another flagpole? I think the citizens would be more than willing to support something like that. That's basically all I have to say. I hope it is in full consideration that that POW flag does not come down from this pole on this building in this town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Come up. Come on.
Keith Buell, 10 Fieldcrest Drive. I fully support the flying of the American flag and the POW flag as they stand. I think Joe eloquently explained what that flag also means to me. I also fully support the flying of the Pride flag and the Juneteenth flag. For that, it's a little personal. As the father of a transgender son, the fact that this board chose to allow that flag to be flown during during June, not forever, but just during June, was very important to me. I think that's who Bridgewater is. That's the Bridgewater, I've raised my kids in. That's the Bridgewater that I hope to grow old in. The world's as divided as we've ever been since the Civil War. There's no doubt about that, and the result of the election recently showed how split Bridgewater is. But what I know about our town is that when things like this and when challenges come, our town always gets together. Our town always comes together, whatever the cause, whether it's, a child with cancer, or whether it's Cindy Lou being stolen out of the common. I mean, the town always comes together. That's what I love about our town. So I'm hoping that flags don't split the town. My recommendation would be to erect a second flagpole on the opposite side of the fountain. Allow a second flagpole slightly lower than the current flagpole. and continue to fly the American flag, the POW flag, and if the state flag, continue to fly them 365, 24/7. Use the second pole to fly cause flags that go through the proper channels, through this legislative body, to be hung for a certain period of time, and use that flag to fly those flags so that when people come into that common, they realize who Bridgewater is. Bridgewater not only loves this country, we know that by the 4th of July, we know that by the laying of the wreaths, we know that by the Memorial Day parade, we'll see it on the Christmas Common this weekend. That's what Bridgewater is all about. And use that second poll to show that we're also accepting. I just hope we can go back to just being Bridgewater on this topic. If it's a matter of budget, you get a number, you tell what the cost of it is all in, and I assure you, my good friend Lisa Bizzell Curley and the 4th of July committee will get the money. The average cost of putting up a state flagpole is $850, but you just give us a number and we'll be glad to get we'll be glad to get the money. The one thing I do find ironic is that a lot of people that are posting that are saying that the POW flag should be flown because those heroes fought for our rights and for our freedoms. Some of those people were or are putting a petition around the town to have no other flags flown. I think that goes completely against the argument that they're using to fly this flag. And that's not who Bridgewater is. That's not who we were. That's not who we are. And I hope that's not who we become. So as always, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Keith. Come on up, John.
John Donna, 261 South Street. I just want to say I don't believe the pride flag should fly on the town building at all times. This is a town building. The government's here. If you want to fly a pride flag at your house, on your property, by all means go do that. But this is a town building. It's about the town government. We don't need another flagpole for special interests. We don't need to run another flag, special interest flag, under the American flag. That's where we are. We're a small town in America. That's all we are. We're all Americans. We don't need to throw up other flags, special interest flags. If you want to go forward to POW, MIA, good. People were drafted and they fought and died for this country. I wouldn't stand in the way of that. But these special interest flags, this division, it's got to stop. We're just all Americans. It's the Academy building. There should just be an American flag out there. Where does it end if we keep putting up special interest flags? We're going to put up 5 flagpoles. We're going to get a not so nice group come in and insist their flag be flying, something really bad. Just a small town in America. It's an average sized city in America. I'm sorry. I'm speaking. It's a small town in America. The American flag flies. That's what we all are. We're all Americans. Just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Sandy?
Good evening. How are you this evening? I just have a little something that I want to read. It's kind of a little educational part and what our flag stands for. The POW MIA KIA banner is flown to represent all folks from past and present, whether making it home or being liberated from an enemy captivity, or God forbid, never making it home from conflict alive. Many of our loved ones remain still, have yet to be discovered and brought back home. Men and women of all denominations, creed, color, statues, sexual orientation, sacrificed their livelihoods, bodies, and times, gave the ultimate sacrifice, also we at home could live our lives freely. More specific to the topic of discussion, free to live, how you do it, and individual, and how you want to live. The POW banner is flown under the United States flag to honor those brave men and women. To the argument, a rainbow or even a Juneteenth banner does not properly represent those who fought and died for us. They do not represent the town population, government, state, or country, therefore not representing anyone formally. These banners are a contradiction of presentation based on assumptions that these folks aren't represented to begin with, when indeed our United States flag does, in fact, represent them, all of us. As free citizens, there is a great hypocrisy in why these other banners are flown, the Pride banner. The freedom to live how you want is, in the fact, reason why the United States flag exists, not only as a symbol for that, though also a beacon to the world, exclaiming that we accept all kinds of folks here. You are accepted here in this town hall, given the freedom to sit amongst us and to voice your frustration in front of a governing body. You are free to start a business, worship how you choose, buy, drive a vehicle you choose. We live amongst you, and you live amongst us, all with decency, respect, and peace. However, your assumptions of folks who disagree with Pride banner or your lifestyle is in connection, therefore, are just as discriminating as what you are assuming or accusing us of being. This society largely has lost its patriotism. There is a terrible and sad difference on how we as people were years ago in contrast to today. We all celebrate these fierce soldiers who fought through all kinds of hell, who by the grace of God made it home. We are gathered in somber remembrance and honor of those who are forever gone from this world. We all would stare at reverence, witness, and evidence of their lives, their fight, their museums, and memorials. We all would celebrate the way of life we all are able to live in this country because of their sacrifice. Displaying or flying the POW banner is how we all remember them and honor them. And doing so, this does not mean, nor does it give any idea whosoever that there is any connection to hating or the active eradication and inclusion certain folks who happen to live how they so choose. We embrace liberty. Many men and women of all creeds and color were taken too soon.
Sandy,
On
can you
these
wrap up your comments, please?
battlefields, prison, I got one more second here, prison camps and in distant lands known nothing about. Many of them never returning home. Many names will never be known but by God. To this we say, they are never forgotten. We honor all of them. The POW banner flies in the remembrance. There is one pride flag, the United States flag.
Thank you, Sandy. Carlton?
Carlton Hunt, 80 Austin Street, Vietnam-era vet, civil advocate. I'm appalled by some of the language I'm hearing tonight. Appalled. I, too, embrace liberty. I have the right to speak and encourage this council to, in fact, explore by a committee with citizens involved to, in fact, look at putting more flagpoles in the front of the Academy building just north of the fountain that was paid for by the Bridgewater Improvement Association for beautification of Bridgewater, and to move the flags from behind the trees out onto the grass where they're visible. I had this conversation with the town's veterans agent. He also agrees we should move that flagpole and put more flagpoles up where they're visible, not hidden. Some of the hidden agendas that I'm hearing tonight are not so hidden anymore. Prejudice, disrespect for people who have different lifestyles, disrespect for people who want to have civil conversations. It's appalling. It's up to you guys to, in fact, do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlton. Anybody else? Oh, Sam?
I'm going to keep my hat on for a bit because I'm going to turn it around in a minute. Sam Baumgarten, 60 Short Street. First of all, thank you again for your indulgence with all these citizens' comments. We also were indulged at the Conservation Committee meeting about a week ago with a long section of time to give our comments and to be heard. But just to follow up briefly, I want to say I'm totally in support of what Mr. Buell said. I think we need to fly the Pride flag and the Juneteenth flag because those folks are discriminated against, not always welcome. And if you have any doubt about that, I encourage you to talk to some members of both the LGBTQ community and people of color who continue to struggle at times everywhere, including in Bridgewater. And it's a small token of equality and inclusion that those flags provide. And I think, again, the solution, whether it's another flagpole, would be great. I don't think anyone is against flying the POW flag, as you've already discussed. So I want to turn my hat around. Well, I will just take it off, because I have a few comments about the Conservation Committee and the protection of the NIP. The Conservation Committee is listening to us, but I'm not sure they're really hearing what we're saying. They've moved the Claremont proposal along, which many folks were against, partly because there are many unanswered questions, partly because they apparently are not protecting an area of critical environmental concern. Both the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission apparently are willing to allow a variance into the 100-foot wetland buffer, which we don't think is appropriate in such an area. So I guess we're calling on you as a council to pay close attention to that issue and perhaps begin weighing in on it yourself. I know a number of you attended the Conservation Commission meeting last time, and I hope you will continue to attend to that and try your best to preserve that area. Once it's messed up, there's no going back. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Next, please come on up.
Sarah Cashman, 1225 High Street. I apologize for my voice in advance. I just wanted to say that I wanted to make a comment about the flag issue. I know it's become a really hot topic, and there's a lot of vitriol on both sides. You know, personally, I am the great niece of a brave soldier who is missing in action. I'm also the proud niece of a brave soldier who had to hide his sexuality. There are arguments to be made on both sides. Some are valid, some are personal and shouldn't be taken into account. I wanted to reiterate what Keith stated up here and also point out the fact that if it's a budgetary issue, the money can be raised for a second flagpole. Somewhere in all of this, there is a compromise. Somewhere in all of this, there is a place to show that there is unity and inclusion in Bridgewater. Like he said, Bridgewater always comes together, always stands together, and we need to show that. I think that by picking and choosing who we have inclusion for and who we have space for and who we have pride for divides us. So at somewhere in all of this, there needs to be some sort of solution and compromise. And I 100% pledge my commitment to help make that happen in whatever form that takes. And I just wanted to be able to share that, and I appreciate you from hearing all of us tonight.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to come up, please?
Paul Linares, 45 Mora Drive. I'm here to lend my support to the Veterans Council's request to have the POW MIA flag fly at the Academy building. To be honest with you, when I found out about it, I thought we were a little remiss because we haven't been doing it. And so, I mean, I too would like, I'm not looking to go against any causes or to stop anyone from raising any flags. That's not what this is about. This is recognizing that we haven't been flying the flag when maybe we should have been. For me, you know, we ask a lot of our military, and sometimes, frankly, we don't ask, we draft them and put them in some pretty horrific situations. And if the veterans are coming to us asking to fly a POW flag at the Academy building, I think we should honor that request and thank them for their service. I mean, they've done a lot for us. And, you know, I know actually there are other communities that have raised additional flagpoles for First Amendment, and they actually put a plaque on it so that it's very clear that that's exactly what that is. So if you do go with another pole, or I think we have a lot of poles, if we designate a pole as being a First Amendment type pole, maybe we could make it clear that that's exactly what it is and people understand what we're doing, trying to include everybody. And allow for everyone to exercise their First Amendment. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Please.
MJ Spagone, 5 Lakeshore Center, Unit 1128. Mr. President, members of the council, residents in attendance, good evening. I come to speak to you tonight. I'll be as brief as possible because I know many have gotten up and spoken, and why beat a dead horse? I appreciate the proposal that's before the council tonight. Frankly, I'm as patriotic as any of you in this room here. I bleed red, white, and blue just like the rest of y'all. I've had members of my family be in the military. I have a permanently disabled veteran as a brother-in-law. He served valiantly in Iraq, got injured for it, served his country with pride. My uncle served as a drill sergeant in the Marine Corps, Semper Fi. My father served as a sharpshooter in the U.S. Army. Never saw deployment, but he served with distinction stateside. And I thank him for his service, and he's a hell of a shot. As it comes to the issue of flagpoles, I think this is trivializing the very fact that we have options before us. Take a look at the flags in this room right now. We have a flag of the United States of America. We have a flag of the town of Bridgewater. And ultimately, we have, on the last side there, the flag of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. There are 3 flagpoles in this room. Why is it not possible to put 3 flagpoles outside the Academy building? The Massachusetts State House has several flagpoles out front of it. It serves as the capital of the Commonwealth. This building and this site serves as inherently the capital of the town itself. It is our seat of government. Why not put 3 poles out here? One in the center that has the United States flag and the POW flag, both flying with great distinction at first and second rate. And the 2 other flagpoles, one to fly the flag of the Commonwealth and one to fly the flag of the town of Bridgewater. The one that flies the flag of the town of Bridgewater? How do we create an inclusive environment? Why don't we use the 3rd flagpole that flies the flag of our town to fly the Pride flag and the Juneteenth flag at second rate beneath it? It seems an equitable and fair approach, and in most respects, maybe fairly a compromise. I don't see the reason to beleaguer or belabor this any further. So, Mr. President, I ask you this. Why wouldn't it be possible to just have an amendment to put 3 flagpoles on site, and if anything, pay for it out of the facilities budget? I'm pretty sure we have enough funding in our budget to cover 3 flagpoles outside this building. Otherwise, I'll take a loan out and build the damn thing myself. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anybody else like to speak? Race to the mic.
Jean DiBattista, 260 Lakeside Drive. I fully support the idea of flying both flags and all the other flags, but that's not what I'm here to talk about, so I am going to change the conversation. Instead, what I'd like to talk about is the fact that it is extremely important for us to pay attention to what's happening in our environment right now. If anybody hasn't already noticed, and I think this has to be all of us have noticed, we've had quite a few fires in Massachusetts. In the last 2 months, this was because there was a severe drought in Massachusetts. We aren't the only state that is dealing with tremendous impacts from what is known as climate change. Whether or not you believe in climate change or not, you can't help but notice the patterns that are going on everywhere. I have a niece who was in North Carolina when Asheville was hit. I have a nephew whose house was 1 mile from a wildlife fire and who had to evacuate, and they only stopped the fire at the last minute. I also have had another relative's house, their condo in Colorado, was within 30 minutes of a wildfire, and now we have fires out of control here in Massachusetts. So it's time to pay attention to what's happening in our environment. And that is why a number of us have been looking at what are we doing in Bridgewater from the standpoint of prevention and the standpoint of response. And I think as a community, we need to start paying attention to this topic. And that is why we're concerned about what happened at the Conservation Commission meeting. Residents brought up quite a bit of issues, asked for the town to look at those issues, asked for that committee to look at those issues. Irregardless of that fact, and there was a lot of good research done, the project was closed without those issues being explored. And I think that is a very big mistake. It's not, I am totally in support of fair and equitable solutions for development. in this community. I think development is important for this community. However, we have to look at where it makes sense and how we're impacting the environment, and we have to answer the questions related to the environment before we all find a fire at our door. I will tell you that in the very end of this drought, a fire came to my neighborhood. It was in 5 minutes of my house, and fortunately, our firemen stopped it before it became out of control. It burned a shed and 2 trees. And I will also tell you that the state has, and firemen right now are looking at the fact that when these fires occur, they're having a problem when it's in the middle of a drought with that fire actually being able to put it out. So this is something that is super important for us all to look at. And therefore, when we have a town team that is looking at these issues, whether it's prevention or whether it's response, we all need to work together, and we need to make sure that all our questions are answered. Otherwise, it is going to be our relatives. It is going to be us that has a fire at our house. And are you ready for that to happen? Because that almost happened to me, and it's almost happened to multiple relatives of mine. So thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Anybody else like to come up and speak? Please.
Hi, Kim Larkin, 50 Curve Street. Just with respect to the flag, it's on the backs of the servicemen and women in the armed forces that have some that have served, those that have returned, and especially those that have not returned, that we enjoy the blessings of liberty. And we don't just enjoy them 1 or 2 days, we enjoy them 365, 24/7. And so therefore I am in favor of having that POW MIA flag flown right with the American flag. As I look up at our flag, and right below it, the POW MIA flag, I'm solemnly reminded that this is America, home of the land of the free because of the brave. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Pat?
Good evening. Pat Neary, Lakeside Drive, 225. I'm here to talk about a couple of things this evening, and I really hope I can get some responses. I know that's a typical plan that you folks have when questions are answered at the town council, and I do hope responses will be forthcoming either from our town council or our town manager, our interim town manager, or a counselor. My first question is regarding the uploading to YouTube of our meetings. You know, the Concom, Tree Committee, whatever. Many times when I cannot attend a meeting or even just want to review a meeting that I have attended, the meeting has not been uploaded to YouTube. And I'd like to know if that can be done automatically after a meeting is held. I'll give you a quick example. The Concom meets on Thursday night, and then Friday, of course, you have a half a day. So for some reason, I can't view that meeting until probably the following Wednesday. And I hope that someone can tell me how that can be rectified, or if that's written in stone. I think it should be quicker. I find when I'm searching for a meeting on YouTube, I see all these other towns that had a 11:14 meeting, and it's posted on 11:15. So I'm just curious, and I would like to know the resolution. Secondly, and more important, I have a question about regulation protocol. At a recent Conservation Commission meeting, the Claremont project for a proposed hotel was approved without adhering to our Wetland Protection Act. What do we do about something like that? I mean, other than hiring an attorney or filing a official complaint, our Wetland Protection Act specifically spells out that there is to be no building in the 100-foot wetland setback area. Why isn't this regulation followed? The Concom probably needs education. I just really don't know. The Wetland Protection Act and the Bridgewater Town Wetland Bylaws give the Conservation Commission the authority to deny work in that 100-foot buffer. However, they are permitting Claremont to place part of the proposed hotel in that setback. It is not upland, as we've been told. That is wetlands. And what can be done about the fact that our bylaws are not being adhered to by a board or committee? What can we do? That is ridiculous. I hope someone can provide an answer for me. What are you waiting
5
at?
seconds, Pat.
Okay. I've had several concerns about decisions by our Concom regarding this development, such as the cease and desist that was filed with regard to violating an order of conditions. This item is being discussed outside of regular Conservation Commission meetings. Why isn't it being discussed publicly? I hope that someone can enlighten me, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Pat.
Hi, good evening. Melissa Raymondetta, 317 Lakeside Drive. First, I would like to express my appreciation to the Town Council for providing opportunity for public comment. Thank you. I'd also like to thank the councilors who have attended recent Conservation Commission meetings. The purpose of the Conservation Commission is to protect, promote, and enhance the quantity and quality of the natural resources within the town, especially wetlands, wildlife, and water resources. Why, then, is it under the direction of the Community and Economic Development Department? The town of Bridgewater needs to prioritize conservation in our town and ensure conservation is independent of planning and zoning, with its own department, separate from community and economic development. Since July of 2023, residents of Bridgewater have written over 30 letters, including expert opinion, and also publicly expressed concerns in hearings over Zero Lakeshore Center, the notice of intent filing. The filing is regarding a 5-story hotel on a 19-plus acre parcel of land hydraulically connected to Lake Nipponicket. The wetlands are connected to a perennial stream that runs under Route 104 and has been noted on historic maps as far back as the 1700s. Portions of the site are in flood zone A. The entire site is an area of critical environmental concern as defined by the state and deserving of a higher level of review by local and state agencies. Concom has a jurisdiction of 100 feet from wetlands and 200 feet from a perennial stream. For reference, the width of this building and this room is 100 feet. The Town of Bridgewater wetland bylaw goes even further with a 25-foot no-activity buffer. The hotel project's planned on a 19-acre parcel with 11 acres of upland. That's a lot of upland to work with for a project that's not even half that size, 11 acres. Applicant chose to site the project on the eastern side of the parcel within the jurisdiction of the 100-foot wetland buffer instead of moving it closer to Lakeshore Center Drive on the uplands and away from the wetlands. As a result of the applicant's siting of the project, 8 acres of trees will be cut, and work will impact the 100-foot wetland buffer, including a road, parking, stormwater management, and part of the building. Some of the project will fall within the 200-foot riverfront area. Concom has jurisdiction over these buffers, over this 100-foot buffer, and could have demanded it be moved outside of the wetland buffers, and they didn't. As Concom did not have a conservation agent at the time of the hearing, they hired a third-party consultant to review the project. The consultant was a commercial tenant of the applicant. Residents brought this to light, and the town manager acknowledged the appearance of a conflict of interest. Concom went ahead and hired a new third-party consultant, but only for wetland review. The issue, and a question I have for council, is that the consultant who the town initially hired submitted a review regarding stormwater that remains in the file, and the comments with regard to stormwater have impacted the plans for this. So I think that needs to be looked into. Other residents have spoken tonight to discuss issues with the proceedings of Zero Lakeshore Center, and I have mentioned only a few. Bridgewater's Concom should be encouraged to rescind its decision on this project prior to issuing a final order of conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Come on.
Good evening. My name is Johnny Loretti. I live at 300 Black Mallard Road, right here in Bridgewater. I'm on the other side of Lakeside. I'm glad to see that that the fire was put out and that you guys were okay. I watched it from my house, so I'm glad to hear that. I just want to make a couple comments tonight. I believe that the original resolution that was proposed back in October regarding the POW MIA flag should have passed as it was originally drafted, that the flag should remain outside of here in front of the Academy building at all times, and then move on to discussing other flags and other solutions. And then on the next point, because we already talked a lot about that this evening, is I intend on running for a town councilor spot, town councilor at large in January, with the open spot left by Ms. Robinson. I hope that she's in good health. And I would like to also throw my name in the hat for being appointed to that position. I saw that there's legislation tonight discussing taking in applicants, so I'd love to be considered for that. I brought an application, or rather a resume, along with a letter that I wrote to the residents, and I have a copy for each of you tonight if you would accept it for your consideration. Thank you for your service to the town.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to come up and speak? Going once, going, oh, yep. Nick, come on up.
I'm not going to talk about whatever you're talking about. Okay.
Name and address for the record, Nick?
Yeah, can get that.
Name and address for the record.
My name is Nicholas Baggus, 23 Church Street. Please excuse me if I'm talking to the wrong, town board. I received a notice from the public hearing from the Bridgewater Planning Board on November 20th that about a hearing on a proposed project for 43 Rhea Central Square. That's located next to the Masonic Building and the Trophy Place. It is proposed to build or add 6 three-bedroom apartments onto an existing building. I tried to virtually attend the meeting, but I failed to get it on my computer. I questioned the clerks at the town manager's office about wanting to attend the next meeting in person. The clerk listened to me and said she will talk to the town manager, Mrs. Robinson. That afternoon, Mrs. Robinson called me and explained at the time they can only have virtual meetings, that board. I would like to, at this time, acknowledge that Mrs. Robinson was polite and answered all my concerns about not being able to attend the meetings in person. My concern about this project is that they are lacking the required parking, and they were told by somebody in the town they can get a variance to park on the town common and also on Church Street 24 hours a day. What about the snow removal and the lack of town parking on the common? Tonight, my main question is why we cannot attend meetings in person. The Bridgewater Housing Authority and the Bridgewater Senior Center are examples of being able to attend the meetings, along with other organized meetings in town. The question, why are we allowed to physically attend this meeting tonight, but we can't? So thank you for giving me the time to present my concern. Now, I advise anybody and everybody to follow the project about the building downtown there. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. We have another person that wanted to speak. Please come on up.
Hi, Angela Foley, 195 Grange Park. I just wanted to voice my support for the flying of the POW MIA flag. I understand that it is the wishes of the veterans in town to have the flag flown in such a manner, and I support them as well. And it seems like a lot of people have questions that aren't getting answered. So I guess my question is, how do I get my question answered? And you can't tell me because you can't answer me in this forum, but that is something I would like to have addressed. It appears many people have many questions. I have more questions now after sitting here and still have no idea how to get an answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. All right. Oh, please come on up.
Thank you very much for having me.
I speak on behalf of my grandfather today who couldn't make it.
Just name and address for the record for me, please.
Yes, name is Daniel Gilmet. My grandfather is Louis J. Allman. It's about the POW flag. 145 days, 145 days plus that celebrate pride, or in other words, sexual orientation. Not to mention the entirety of June, whole month of June. Compare that to the patriotic days, which are approximately 15 to 20, the most important being Independence Day. Is it more important to exploit and celebrate people's sexualities than to celebrate our veterans past and present? Is it even more important than Independence Day, a day of which was made possible by those wanting future generations to be free from tyranny and to live how they want? The ideologies that the Rainbow Banner represents is not favored among the collective populace, i.e. sexual orientation, exploitation, integrating the numerous topics into the classroom and onto our children, installing such ideas onto our public dwellings and government institutions. The celebration of individuals' sexual behaviors, ideas, and so on is not topics or issues of serious and importance. Those are personal and private matters. We don't go out into the street and celebrate or ask you to take notice of our bank accounts, social security numbers, or other public matters or private matters for individuals. No one here is advocating for the removal of any of these days that they celebrate their sexuality. I certainly don't. I have no problem with them. Your banner, we're not saying to take it down from your homes and your private businesses. How you choose to live your life is your liberty, and we all would fight for it if something were to happen here at home. We would be on the front lines fighting with you hand in hand. We simply say there is a time and a place. And on government establishment, that banner, Pride banner, Rainbow banner, respectfully what you'd like to call it, doesn't represent a town governance, a state, or the country. It does not belong on places of government institutions. The American flag, more specifically the United States flag, does indeed represent all Americans, gay, straight, black, white, whatever your denomination is and creed. The POW flag is a banner that is raised in remembrance of all Americans who fought, died, held captive, or never made it home, dead or alive. These were Americans of all creeds and of all colors and sexualities. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Anybody else like to speak? Going once, going twice. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming up to speak tonight. We really appreciate it. All right. We have some appointments to make this evening. First one for the Veterans Council. David Seiden for 2024 to 2027. All the information regarding the candidate is in the packets for all the councilors to see. So hopefully you've reviewed that. Do I have a motion to approve David for Veterans Council?
So moved. Second.
Mr. McKinnon, second by Mr. Lindy. Any further discussion on the candidate? Seeing none, all those in favor of appointing Mr. Seiden to the Veterans Council, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's none seen, so the motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Seiden, for your volunteerism. Next, for the Disability Commission, we have Estelle Wesson, also for the term of 2024 to 2027. Again, councilors, her information is in your packet. Do I have a motion to approve Ms. Wesson?
So
for the
moved.
position?
Second.
Mr. McKinnon, second by Mr. Chase. Any further discussion on the candidate? Ms. Ellenberg.
I just wanted to know, were there any other candidates who applied?
I don't know, her name was submitted and reviewed and approved, and like I say, her information is in your packet.
Yes, I know it's in my packet. I wanted to know, were there any other people who applied? Maybe Miss Robinson, our town manager, would know?
I'm afraid I don't know.
Okay. All right. Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of appointing Ms. Wesson to the commission, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you to Ms. Wesson for her appointment, her volunteerism. Next up for Board of Assessors, we have David Werthessen, again for the term of 2024 to 2026. Again, his information is in your packet. Do I have a motion to approve him for this position? So moved. Ms. Striggles for the primary.
Second.
Second by Mr. McKinnon. Any further discussion on the candidate? Seeing none, all those in favor of his appointment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
I'm recusing myself from the next vote.
Okay. Okay, and we have appointment to the Town Manager Preliminary Screening Ad Hoc Committee of Councilor Mary McGrath, again due to Councilor Robinson resigning at our last meeting. Ms. McGrath has put her name forth, and do I have a motion to approve
So
Ms.
moved.
McGrath? Ms. Striggles, second. Mr. Chase. Any further discussion on the appointment?
I would just like to say that the ad hoc committee would be very lucky to have Mary's voice as we look and encounter any challenges or solution-based thinking as we look for our next town manager. So I just wanted to say that publicly.
Thank you, Ms. Striggles. Anybody else? Ms. Ellenberg?
Yes. Has anyone else applied?
We had her name come forward, and her name was put on first to see if we get her approved.
So the first person gets appointed?
Her name is up for appointment tonight. If she gets appointed, she gets appointed. If not, we'll look for another candidate. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of her appointment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. McGrath, for stepping up for the ad hoc.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes,
I'd like to make a
Mr.
motion to take new business out of order.
New business out of order. Well, not new business, legislation for action? So that's the, oh, I'm sorry, we do have new business, I'm sorry. What did you want to bring up?
Just all the new business. You can't do it by itself. Can't do a certain thing by itself. We have to do new business.
You have to
in
take the
total.
whole section.
That's what I
correct.
just said, new business.
Yeah, new business section, yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to bring new business up as an entirety, okay.
I'll second.
And a second for, okay, any further discussion on bringing up new business first? Seeing none, all those in favor of taking new business out of order, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We will go to item N, new business. Get to the appropriate spot here. There we go. This one more. Okay. Trying to find my spot here. Admin code. Okay, here we go. Okay, first item up. Order OFY 25-024, in order to raise the POW MIA flag. Again, this is actually a first reading of it, as it was pushed off from our last meeting. This was brought forth by Councilors Chase and Lindy, so I'll turn it over to either councilor to introduce it again.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, and I appreciate all the comments from the citizens this evening with respect to flag issues in general. I'd first like to say that there is some confusion, I think, at least in some people's minds, as to what the nature and purpose of this proposed order is. It would simply do one thing, subject to the council approval. It would require the town of Bridgewater to fly the POW MIA flag from the south end of the town common at the area of the town war memorials, where there are, as I'm sure you all realize, a number of war memorial plaques, and there's an obelisk as well that celebrates the commitment and sacrifices of so many Bridgewater citizens over the course of the past century in all conflicts. It seemed to me, and I was joined in this regard by Councilor Lindy, that it was a highly appropriate place for the POW MIA flag to be flown. And for that reason, we brought forth this proposed order. Now, just for clarity, the order has nothing to do with any flag that might fly at any other time of year, for example, the Pride flag or the Juneteenth flag or any other flag that could be flown under our flag-raising ordinance. Has nothing to do with that, has nothing to do with the proposed amendment to the flag ordinance that is now in committee of the council. It has nothing to do with, as we heard 2 weeks ago, the conflict that arose in the city of Boston some years ago over flags that were being flown at that time. Because, as we discussed in part 2 weeks ago, our ordinance is really specifically drafted with that event in mind to prevent any constitutional challenge. So it does one thing. It would cause the POW MIA flag to be flown at that location. So it's subject to what ultimately will be the decision of the council as to whether they think that appropriate or not. Now, just one other item of confusion that has arisen is it was introduced 2 weeks ago, that proposed order, and yet over the course of the past 2 weeks, I've received a number of questions from citizens as to what happened 2 weeks ago. It was introduced. I read the full text of the order into the record. Discussion began, and then, as people put it to me, it just evaporated. It went away. And they're very confused, and I understand that. What happened? And to explain, just to clarify, that a member of the council raised a charter objection, which was their right to do under our charter. And the charter objection has the effect of immediately quashing discussion of a matter and preventing a vote. It's simply a delay. It really doesn't accomplish anything more than that, except it does accomplish one important thing. It's a negative accomplishment. It accomplishes stifling the discussion among the councilors. Now, we as councilors, having been elected as your representatives, are entitled to bring forth legislation, and that's what we do. And we're entitled to a fair and full hearing of that legislation in this chamber, before this body, and before all of you. So for a unilateral action by any one single councilor, and I certainly don't single out any councilor in particular, but to have the power to simply quash the discussion and to silence that, prevent it from a vote, is frankly unfair and I think embarrassing. And I'd like to point out that I've had the privilege of serving on this council for 6 years. And in 6 years' time, there has not been in this council one successful attempt to invoke a charter objection in 6 years. In fact, I checked to see when one did occur, and it was about 8 years ago. That was the last time, and probably the first time since we've adopted this form of government in Bridgewater, that a charter objection was invoked and effectively took place. Now, the proper way for any of us as councilors to object to legislation, apart from just voting against it, might be to raise a motion to table a measure. Because by raising a motion to table a matter, the discussion, a vote and discussion takes place among the councilors. We actually have to talk about it and vote on it. Shall we table it, or are we going to continue discussion? That's the fair way to do it. So I'm hoping that we haven't set a precedent whereby in the future this council will devolve into just a chamber for the purpose of sabotaging one another's legislation by just one councilor, any one councilor. And I'm afraid that, you know, it's all too likely that could occur. But there are other ways to challenge legislation, as I just said, and the charter amendment is, in my opinion, not one. What a charter amendment should be used for, properly, would be a situation in which the council as a whole is poised to take some action that would contravene our charter or otherwise be an illegal action. That would be appropriate for one councilor to stand up, invoke a charter objection, and stop that from happening. Again, stop it for just the period of, in our case, 2 weeks until the next meeting. So here we are at the next meeting tonight. So that's why we are, this is the first reading officially of the proposed order to fly the POW MIA flag from the town war memorial. That is all I have to say. I'd be happy to turn it over to Councilor Lindy if you have any further comment on that.
Mr. Lindy, do you want to add anything?
Not specifically to what Fred just said, which is very articulate and informative to me, but the whole issue going all the way back from putting up the POW MIA flag for POW MIA Flag Recognition Day, the fact that the flag hadn't been flown in God knows how long prior to me moving to the town, the fact that there were concerned citizens all here tonight from all sides of the aisle, different parties, different groups. I tried a year and a half ago to talk to the town manager to put up another flagpole, and I was told he would check into it and get back to me. Well, it didn't happen. I come from a community that has multiple flagpoles. Hey, we don't have a fountain that works anymore. We could have 12 flagpoles around the common, kind of the hall of flags. I was the one that fought to put the Veterans Memorial flag up because it was hanging through the outside, looking wrapped around, not helping the building. Michael said it would damage the building. The library didn't have a flag. Someone told me I wanted too many flags in this town. I can never see enough American flags in this town, or let's correct the POW MIA flag. Let's put up another flagpole. Let's solve the whole problem. But I also think, and the reason I co-sponsored with Fred, is the memorial building was originally put up to be a Civil War memorial building. It's used for other things, other offices. It was the selectman's office. It was the town council met there. It's been a lot of uses. So, you know, Fred and I aren't always on the same page. We decided to do something jointly together to try to, do that. So I think we should get it done, figure out how to put up another flagpole. I appreciate hearing the offer of let's raise money to do it. I kind of agree with MJ that we probably have enough money in the budget to do it anyway. So let's figure out how to work this out, get along.
Thank you, Mr. Linney. So as was mentioned by Mr. Chase, we are keeping this at a council level, so I'll look for a motion to keep it at council level and a second for any further discussion. Motion by Mr. Eagles.
Second discussion.
Second for Mr. McKinnon for discussion. Any further discussion by any council members? Mr. McKinnon.
Through you to the town manager, what would the process be of getting another flagpole? Because that is something I did say last week before we did charter object. I mean, that our flagpole, as Carlton said, is kind of an issue where it stands now. Half the time you drive around the building, you can't see it. And I mean, I do think two should be centered in the front. And I mean, we don't even fly the state flag on a state building. Well, state-funded building. I think that's an issue too. Yeah, that's just my question. What would we, any hoops, any loops for that? Because I mean, it seems like both sides want both flags to fly. I mean, I've only heard one negative comment on the council about the flags, and I just want to know what's the process of all that we would have to go through or look through, because I'm really not okay with segregating the POW flag to just one pole in this town.
I think we need to decide where exactly it's going to go, somehow come to consensus on where that location needs to be. We've put up other flagpoles recently, so I think we probably have a good idea of what it will cost and what it would take to anchor it safely and so on, and then double check the budget and figure out if we need to transfer from somewhere to the right place to spend it.
I mean, I really don't think the budget thing would be a problem, because I have talked to some citizens and they all have said they would want to crowdfund it, and these are the people that do some big crowdfunding for this town, so I don't see that not happening. Like I said, we've never really said we wanted to get rid of all these flags or this, but I mean, we've had over a decade of no POW MIA flag in front of this building or anywhere around town, and that honestly is just kind of disgusting in my own personal opinion.
I think the most important part is a consensus about where it should go, so then we can figure out exactly what we need to do to make that happen.
I think we could work with the town manager and veterans agent and see what we can do on design and location, make sure everything's appropriate, but we can certainly work on it.
I do think that's the best way to compromise. I don't think segregating a flag to just one pole is the right way to do this at all whatsoever. I mean, it's a POW MIA flag, and we have no talks about even putting it on the memorial building. That's a little ludicrous. That's actually ridiculous in my opinion. I know it's not our fault. We weren't the one that designed the building and didn't want to put lights on the flagpole, but it's ridiculous in my
Plus,
eyes.
the updates to the ordinance are going to be addressing that as well.
What's up?
The updates to the ordinance are going to be addressing that as well, I
What
believe.
updates?
The one that's in committee, I do believe. The ordinance that's in committee, I believe, is addressing flagpoles as a whole.
One that's in
across the
rules
town.
and procedures.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Murphy, you had a question?
I was just gonna, given the feedback from the councilors, make a motion to table this until we have.
I'll second that.
Until we have further information regarding a second flagpole.
That's fine.
I'll
I would
second
agree.
that.
Okay, certainly. All those in favor of just discontinuing conversation on the flagpole itself, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So just any further questions on the order that we have in hand in front of us? Seeing none, I had a first and a second. All those in favor of keeping it at a council level, which we'll be bringing back up at the meeting next week, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Could I ask one question before we go?
Oh, okay. Relative to the order itself?
Yes, because I'm a little confused. So this order is going to be tabled until next week, but we also have...
No. The table is just the discussion on the flagpoles. So what we're looking, so we just moved this order to our next meeting. We would vote on it as a council to take action on the flagpole on the common.
And could I address, because I'm the counselor who had the objection?
That's fine. If you'd like to take a moment to speak regarding that.
The reason I use that is because we have a resolution that's somewhere that you brought up before, Mr. Chase.
An ordinance.
I did the ordinance, but there's a resolution before me.
I think we did a resolution for the flagpole in front of the Academy building, and that's why
And
the
then-
POWMI flag is there right now.
Right. But there was another resolution that you were making about it staying up all the time. And I don't think that continued. And then I make an ordinance to make an amendment. So when we're discussing this, the flagpole across is not for the memorial. That's the 9/11 flag. And I think if you spoke to the firefighters, I don't think they would want any other flag on that. That's for all the men and women who lost their lives on 9/11. As far as my understanding, that's 9/11 flag.
The south end of the common
Mr. Jace, go ahead.
is where the war memorial plaques and monuments exist.
Right, but there's a flagpole there.
There's a flagpole there.
And I
yes.
believe that's the 9/11 flagpole, from what I've been told.
Well, it's a town-owned
dedicated to
flagpole.
it.
Yeah, it's dedicated to
Dedicated to
9/11.
Okay, well, that's all I can say.
It's still a memorial flagpole.
All right, so there
I
was a
think
lot of confusion in learning the charter. It said legally that I could do it because I wanted to put everything on hold. I wanted to hear more. I have no problem if you withdraw your order and make an order that 2 flags are up. I'm fine with that. The order that you have
Wait,
right now.
I actually don't why are we discussing if we tabled this
Yes,
already?
well, no, we tabled discussion of the flag, moving of the flag poles.
It's really a wider discussion than is before us.
I tend to agree with Councilor Murphy. I thought that you voted to keep it at council level.
Yes, we did. Well,
That means the matter's done.
Done. All right. I just was letting
In
Miss.
fact, You can discuss it at the next meeting, but you had.
I was
you
just
had
letting
the
Ms.
motion.
McGrath address her charter objection that she had made
Well,
at the last meeting.
So that should have happened during discussions.
All right.
So once you have your motion, then you obviously, you vote your motion to keep it at council level, then you have to move on to the next matter.
In the future, when we're having discussion, please bring up your discussion when we're asking for
I'm
discussion.
sorry, I got confused because we tabled something
Yeah.
and we're bringing something back.
Well,
to
before we
the
go
next-
to a vote, if you have a thing you want to discuss, make sure you bring it up before
And
we
you
vote.
certainly can have this discussion at the next
All right.
meeting.
Miss Robinson.
Just have a clarification. I just want to make sure, at the next meeting, are you looking for a recommendation on where to put the flagpole? Or can that come in
No,
later?
then the next meeting, we're bringing this order up for a vote. And that's just to put the POWMIA flag on the flag.
Thank you, just need to make sure.
That's not what I take.
Yeah.
I asked to table this indefinitely, I guess, until we have the full scope of what it would be to put a flagpole, an additional flagpole out front.
He made a motion to table the
Did
whole ordinance.
Mr. Murphy make a motion to table or to keep at council level?
To table.
To
was the
table
word.
And-
the order
and the-
or to table, we were discussing.
No, you
moving of
can't table,
flagpoles.
you can't table discussion, you can
It was the
table a matter.
ordinance.
So if Mr. Murphy made a motion to table and everyone voted the motion to table, this matter is now removed, period. It's not coming back next week.
Then I misunderstood what he was looking to table, because I
So
thought he was
think-
looking to table
I think-
discussion.
I think Mr.
Can't
Murphy
table that.
should make his vote,
So
redo
what
his
are you
vote,
looking to table?
because obviously there's a lot of confusion about what the actual motion was. So if Mr. Murphy's motion is to table, he should make his motion to table, and a motion to table is to essentially remove this from business, from legislation at this point.
Right, that would be my
what he
table.
said.
Right.
Because I would like to understand the alternative to having a.
Oh, no, it's fine. You guys can have a discussion about why you're doing it. I don't mind. That has nothing to do with me. I'm talking procedurally. So I think you should, because it appears to me that the vote that was taken involved a lot of confusion about what was actually voted.
Right.
So I think you should clarify what your motion is for, and then I think you need to get a second, and then I think we vote on the motion to table, because what I'm hearing is the president who runs the meeting was of the opinion that the vote was to just simply keep it at council level and stop the discussion, which would have been a whole different motion altogether. But your discussion was to actually table the item. Two different issues. So
Mr.
was your
President.
intention to table it, or was your intention to simply move the question and stop the discussion?
Yes, for the third time, my intention was to table it
Okay,
until
and-
I have the full scope of understanding what an additional flagpole out
Then
front of the
that's the
Academy building
motion.
would look like.
It's a motion to table.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think Mr. President, who runs the meeting, had a
I misunderstood
your
yes, because we
motion.
were discussing moving flagpoles around the front, and I thought that's what you were looking to table, was the discussion of the moving of the flagpoles.
No, he's actually
All
making
right,
a motion.
so then we need to go
table.
back to look at a vote on that. So you're making a motion to table taking up this order at this time.
Second,
Yes.
And we have a second, Ms. Ellenberg?
yes.
Point of clarification through you to the town attorney. So when can this be discussed again?
If
Well,
it's,
when
if
you
it's
draft a
tabled,
new
We're
it's-
going to
ordinance.
have a vote on the tabling right now.
if it's tabled, it's gone.
Right.
You would need to draft a new ordinance.
It's gone.
Okay.
Tabling is ending it.
Since you second, Ms. Ellenberg, any discussion?
Yes, I just would like to say, I think that we should have the councilor and citizens arrive at a consensus.
Do we
And
act as,
then
we're acting as a
legislation-
council right now, we're not having a discussion with the public right now.
I know. I'm saying we should table it until we have had sufficient discussion about what's going on. That's
Again,
all.
again, all right, that's fine, I hear what you're saying. Again,
Has
basically.
there been a second to table?
There has.
Yes.
She seconded, it was her discussion. As far as that, Ms. Ellenberg goes, again, this is, again, your opinion. I think the order that's in front of us is simply to put the POWMI flag on the flagpole that's on the common. As far as the flagpoles around the front of the Academy building, I think that's a separate issue. It doesn't really necessarily pertain to this particular order. But again, this is up for a vote for tabling. Does anybody else have any discussion on the matter? Ms. Striggles?
I would like clarification from Councilors Chase and Lindy. Is this ordinance stating that we can't put another POWMIA flag anywhere else in town? Or is it specifically this flagpole?
We would have to do another ordinance.
Let them please address.
I'm going to let Fred take it.
So this ordinance says just one thing: fly the POWMIA flag from the common. That's all it says.
I just wanted to make that point of clarification that there was still an opportunity to fly it at the Academy building outside of this ordinance. That's my understanding.
That was my point earlier. It doesn't have anything to do with other flags or other
So if we
flagpoles.
so if we got further clarification on the price of an additional flagpole, we could easily install a second POWMIA flag underneath the American flag that sits outside of this building. Is my
Again,
my
that's,
thought
like I
process.
said, to me, a separate issue. Any other discussion from any other councilors? Seeing none, so taking up the vote on tabling this issue. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay?
Nay.
Can I get, let's go back to a roll call vote on that for me, please?
Can we clarify
So,
what each vote
so we're
means,
voting to
please?
table this order. A vote of yes to table means that we are not bringing forth this order at the next meeting. It's been tabled.
Not because I don't disagree with it, but because I think we just need the full scope before we vote.
Okay.
That's my only ask.
And if you vote against tabling it, then we go back and vote on keeping it at a council level.
Okay.
Okay? So roll call vote, please.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
Ms. Ellenberg?
Excuse me, this is to table it.
Table.
Yes, to table it.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
No.
Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
Mr. Chase?
No.
Ms. Striggles?
Yes.
And Ms. McGrath?
Yes.
6 in favor, 2 opposed. Motion tabled.
Okay. So, well, this order is tabled. Going forward. Okay. Moving on to the next order. Order OFY 25-031, appointment of a vacant counselor at large seat. So again, this was drawn up by myself to outline how we're going to potentially appoint a counselor to take the seat of Ms. Robinson, who resigned that last meeting. Again, this would be an appointment for the seat from the date that they take the seat to the next election. At that point in time, the counselor who was appointed could again run for that seat, but they would not be listed as an incumbent. The appointment is up to the council. We have 21 days. We're announced, so this is the official announcement that we're looking to take volunteers to be appointed. So they have 21 days to submit their interest for that, which will be through the council secretary. And at our, not the next meeting, but the second meeting in December, we will probably have those candidates in front of us as a council to introduce themselves. Yeah, guys, can I have some quiet in the gallery, please, while we're discussing?
Less talk.
Guys, quiet in the gallery, please. So we'll have those candidates come in front of us to outline their interest, and the council will undertake a vote at that meeting to appoint someone at that second meeting of December. Also, just be aware that based on tonight's meeting, announcements will be made on the town Facebook page, the town website, and cable TV to let those know that we are officially looking for people to volunteer for the seat. As I mentioned, letters of interest are due back to the town council clerk by 12 p.m. on December 10th. So I'm looking to get a motion, a second, to retain this at a council level.
So moved. Second.
And a second by Mr. McKinney. For discussion, certainly. Mr. Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm really of two minds in connection with this issue because, as some of you may know, both I and Councilor Lindy were first introduced to the council as appointees to fill vacancies of very short duration, several months of duration. But another coincidence with respect to our past experience is that both Councilor Lindy and I were filling district council seats. What we're looking to consider accepting appointees for presently is for an at-large seat. In the several years since the council reconstituted itself, we have gone from what were 2 at-large councilors out of the 9 in total to now 6 at-large and 3 district councilors. I think an argument can be made that there is more than ample representation for the citizens generally in the town by having 6, or even at the very moment, 5 at-large councilors without the need to fill another at-large seat for a few months. As you know, papers will be available in January for interested candidates in any town offices that are coming for the April election. And in my opinion, at this point, because of that distinction, this being an at-large seat that we're looking to fill, I think it's appropriate to urge interested parties to instead wait until January and to take papers from the town clerk and run in April for a full term. Again, as district councilors, when a district seat is open and vacant, you know, I think that has a bigger impact on the citizens and the voters of that particular district. But we have 5 at this moment, 5 at-large councilors. Do we need 6 for, you know, 1 additional for a period of several months? I'm not so sure.
Yep. Your point's well taken, Mr. Chase. Prior situations were for district councilors. Again, leaving the council at 8 certainly creates the situation where votes could be tied. It's an option of the council, and we could also bring it up at our next meeting. The president was sent, I think a council took a vote years ago when we lost a councilor. They voted not to fill the seat even after hearing people step forward and announce their intention of wanting to be appointed. Mm-hmm. So it is another avenue the council has. We could vote not to fill the seat. It's definitely, like I said, an appointment by the council. So we could potentially take a vote at that time. If the council's will is not to fill it, we can take a vote in that regard as well. But at least go through the process, see how many candidates we do get forward, and at least go through a process, I think, would be the fairest thing to do. And then, again, we'll take it up as a discussion as a council the next couple of meetings and see where that vote lies.
Very good.
Okay. Mr. Lindy.
I think Ms. Ellenberg might
sorry,
have been before me.
Yes, I just have a comment. First of all, we had an applicant tonight, so it should be noted for the record that he is the first applicant in the series.
Actually, I've already gotten 3 other ones.
Okay,
you know.
Thank you. I would also point out that the ad hoc committee apparently was the first one out of the gate.
That's unrelated to what this discussion's about.
I'm just talking about consistency of procedure. That's all.
Well, again, this is the first announcement that we're making as a council tonight for the opening of the seat.
Well, it's on the agenda for tonight, so, I mean, it can be voted on tonight.
What is voted on tonight?
The appointment of a counselor.
No, the procedure is, this is announcing that it's open, and when we allow 21 days for people to put their interest in for the seat.
Okay. Was
But we
21
cannot
days-
act on it tonight.
Okay. Was 21 days allowed for the ad hoc committee? I'm just
That's
curious.
a separate issue.
Oh, thank you.
Just a
Mr. Lindy.
point of clarification through you to the town attorney. In reading the charter myself, I want to make sure I'm correct. There is no automatic appointment for the third runner-up because there's a timetable specifically in the charter, correct?
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the runner-up. It has to do with the time period in which the prior or resigning counselor had served. So if they serve a certain amount of time, there's one protocol if they're a district counselor. If they serve another amount of time, there's another protocol. The problem comes when you're not in one of those gaps. And then it defaults to the section C, which then outlines this process.
So what is that time, do you know the time period?
There is no time period, so the council gets to really determine how the vacancy is filled. There's an ordinance that was passed some time ago that has somewhat of a procedure, a process, which I think is exactly what the president is following now with the announcement in the 21 days. But it gives the discretion to the council as to if they fill it, how they fill it, and with whom they fill it.
Okay, and just kind of for the record, I tend to agree with Mr. Chase's point because there are 5 at-large counselors.
Which is fine. And just to answer your question, I think that, so it was, the one situation is within 18 months of being initially elected and within the last 6 months.
Right.
6 months of their, end of their term.
And there are 5, yeah. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions on that? All right, so seeing nothing else, so I have a first and a second. All those in favor of keeping this at a council level, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. And we'll have further discussion on that as well as a council. Finally, under new business, resolution R, FY 25004, town council meeting dates for 2025, again brought up by myself. This just lists all of the potential meeting dates for 2025. Again, looking for a motion and a second to keep this at a council level.
Second.
Ms. Strigel, second by Mr. McKinnon. Any further questions from any councilors on this particular motion? Seeing none. So all those in favor of keeping this at a council level, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So going back to where we were. We left off at hearings. We have none this evening. Licensed transactions, we have none. Presentations, we have none, which brings us to item I, Town Manager's Report. Ms. Robinson, I will turn it over to you.
So thank you, Mr. President. I'm reporting on the fire station update tonight. In your packet, starting on page 29, is the most recent report from our owner's project manager, CHA. And just going down through that, also I'll start off with the topping off ceremony last week. It was an absolutely beautiful day. I'm glad all of you who were able to make it could be there. It was a lovely celebration. It's nice to see former chiefs there and folks who've been involved in the project over the years, and I think it was well attended. As you saw, the steel is basically all up. The crane is gone, and we are caught up on the schedule from where we started, and it's going quite well. They're working on welding and starting to put in the metal decking that needs to happen, and starting also with the utilities that need to be installed, site drainage, water and fire line installation, and prepping for the water line tie-in at the street. That's going to happen later next week. and it's going to happen at night because it's a very large water main. Actually, it's going to require police detail to shut the road down, not shut it down, but significantly limit traffic while it's being done overnight to limit the impact on drivers. We're on budget. We have spent about $200,000 of the contingency. That was largely to address the changes the planning board required after the project went out to bid. There have been some other minor ones that have come along, but nothing significant at this point. We will have some costs for the signalization to be put in so that when trucks need to leave the site, they'll be able to stop traffic stops to get safely in and out. I don't have a price for you on that yet. The project meetings continue weekly with the OPM and the contractor on Wednesday mornings, attended by several of our staff. And there are some pictures in your packet that were taken that day and just some other things that people might find of interest. So,
Thank you. Any questions for the town manager on that? Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Robinson, I just had a question for you. Have you been involved in other similar type municipal projects in towns that you've served?
Several.
Would you say this is a standard procedure according to this memo here? Does this look like every other memo you would receive for those projects?
Yes, and similar to ones we receive here on other projects, such as the wastewater treatment plant from a different vendor.
I only ask because it seems like this is very, I guess, high level would be how I would put it, right? There's a section on here that says risk log. It says budget. Team continues to track budget and potential changes. What does that mean? Where is the budget? Where are those changes that you mentioned? Why are those not listed on here?
We can include a budget section in there for future updates.
I would say the same about the schedule. I mean, I don't attend the weekly meetings,
Yep.
so unfortunately, members of the town don't either, so they don't get that information. It also says schedule. Team continues to track schedule with contractor.
No, your input is helpful. I mean, there is a 2-week look-ahead schedule that the group looks at every time they meet to talk about what's coming up next and how that interacts with the various trades. I can ask them to include that in this report going forward.
Yeah, I would say I would just say if we're going to collectively add this to our agenda, Mr. President, town manager, that maybe we include a little bit more informative information for the town to be able to understand what that means budget-wise, schedule-wise.
Sure.
Because I think that tells us nothing, and it's almost an insult to the company that we're probably paying a good amount of money to support us in this project, right? And I'm sure there's good work being done and conversation being had in those weekly meetings, but again, how that gets transferred to us, I feel like that we're missing right now.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the public's missing it, so
sure,
I would just ask for that. So thank you for that. And thank you for everybody who organized the day last week. I thought it was incredible. I couldn't make it, but I did see the pictures. I know it was well received. And obviously this is an exciting time too, so we should be celebrating that.
We didn't forge your name on the beat.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Striggles.
I would just say, in response to
Your mic's off.
In response to Councilor Murphy's comments about that section, with some new construction experience myself, I don't know if we open up potential change orders to the public, if they'll find that appetizing to really see. So I think maybe just redoing that section or explaining maybe where we are number-wise might be a more palatable way for the public to understand what you mean by a potential change order. A change order likely is from when the planning board inserted certain changes. You need a change order form. You need to reorder materials. That's why we dipped into the contingency. So I would likely say keeping the numbers there might be a little bit more palatable.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Striggles. Any other questions or comments for the town manager? Mr. McKinnon.
Not a comment, but I just, I know paving season's almost over, but one of the last few things Mike talked about, and I know this isn't going to get done this year, is Flag Street.
Flag Street is underway. I talked to the DPW director about it.
Is it the drainage or paving?
It's the drainage with the sinkholes.
All right. And then one other thing on Flag Street, too, that was in his last town manager report is the old Rainbow's End Park. The state was looking into cleaning all that up too, if you could.
So
ever look-
actually, funny you bring that up, I did speak with, I emailed with the state today to say, hey, where are we on that? They actually opened bids today.
Oh, all right.
I don't have the results for you.
Yep, no, that's
but
fine.
we're waiting to
Yeah,
get an
no,
update.
That's all I wanted to hear right there. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. Anybody else? Ms. McGrath?
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the town manager. Mrs. Robinson? Hi, sorry. So I've listened to the Open Space Committee, and I've listened to the ComCon and all that, and I hear a lot about the trees being cut down. We don't have control. So I was wondering if I could request the tree committee to come in and talk about the trees, because they say the older trees are more useful to the town than having the developers knock it all down and planting trees. So they seem to be very knowledgeable of what's going on in town and the trees being knocked down and how they should be replaced or if they shouldn't be replaced. So I thought if they could come in and give their perspective on, you know, like even Curve Street, 150 homes, and you should see the trees being plowed down. So maybe they could guide us how we can save some of these trees or make zonings changes or talk to the planning. They seem very knowledgeable every time I hear about, they talk at a committee. And it's all about the trees and how we're losing our older trees, and these little trees that are being planted have no comparable to it. So I think you're the, who requested?
What are you requesting, Ms. McGrath?
I'd like the tree committee to come in and explain the importance of the older trees. I mean, how they see the development up and what's going on.
Okay. We can certainly look into that as a presentation item.
That's what I was wondering if they
Okay.
could. I wasn't sure if it was through you, but last time it was through Mr. Dutton that we had a request, so I was confused.
Well, it's requests that you want to hear from the town manager on a future meeting, that you want
Yeah.
directly from the town manager. But if you want to hear from the tree committee, again, we could reach out to them if we want to see a presentation of some sort. I mean, write down some details of what you're looking for, and then we'll see what can be arranged.
Yeah, because, I mean, I'm sure they'll know because I've listened to a lot, and there's a lot going on, and they're usually putting in their input and how important our trees are and how many we're losing.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
thank you.
We'll see what we can do in the presentation aspect. Anybody else?
Yes.
Oh, yes, Mr. Ellenberg.
Yes, I would like to ask our town manager a question about the CONCOM and its order. What do you recommend for the CONCOM in terms of procedure for rescinding its order in the wetlands?
Nothing,
No.
because CONCOM is an independent body, which the town manager and the town council have no purview over.
So is there no remedy for the residents?
Sue.
I represent the Conservation Commission for the town of Bridgewater. I'm not advising the residents as it relates to their rights. Certainly, there are rights under any circumstance when CONCOM makes a decision, but this body is the town council for the town of Bridgewater, and CONCOM is a board that makes adjudicatory decisions within that town. So certainly, there would be no advice coming from the town as to how to avail yourself against a town board, and there would be no forthcoming advice on that ever.
Okay, I would think that this council is the ultimate decider of what happens in our town.
We're the legislative body, Ms.
Yeah,
Ms.
Yes,
Ellenberg.
indeed.
The town council makes no decisions as it relates to the Conservation Commission.
It's not under our purview, Ms. Ellenberg.
So, the town manager says that the residents have no remedy other than to sue at their private expense?
Any party who has standing can avail themselves of whatever legal remedies they're entitled to.
I'm sure the residents are very pleased with your answer. Thank you.
Anything else from the town manager? Mr. Lindy.
Town manager, possibly town attorney. I have a question about protocol for a body like the Conservation Commission in terms of who is supposed to be the person to control the flow of public comment, because seems like...
I think we're going
Yeah, we're way off.
out of
We're
bounds.
going,
Like,
yeah.
we're in the town-
I need to ask the question because...
We're in the town manager's report, and
Yeah, we're not on, yeah, it's not on
president was
the,
asking what you want the council president.
Well, I'd like to look into who, as a town employee, like Josh does certain meetings, Deb does certain meetings. I'd like to know who is the person that deals with COMCOM.
Do you mean takes minutes?
No, that controls the flow of people speaking to the
that
Conservation
would be the chair of the
Commission.
Probably
conference.
the commission.
It isn't.
Well, I would talk to the Conservation Commission,
Yeah,
and/or
they
I
have their
would
own
talk
body,
to,
councils.
that's probably who
It's
I
not in our purview. Okay, so.
Disagree.
We're all set with the town manager's report, so thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. Discussions, we have none. Does any councilor have any committee reports that they'd like to share?
Budget and Finance met prior to this, and we have a whole bunch of legislation for action, and I wanted to thank the Finance Committee for their recent meeting, and they reorganized, and they have a new chair and a new vice chair, and we're on the way to getting financial matters taken care of.
Very good. Any other councilors have? Yes, Mr. Murphy.
I'd just like to give a quick update on the ad hoc search group for the town manager. I also, can I suggest that we put this on the agenda just to be listed on there going forward? Maybe as a regular update on the committee report?
Well, again, it's, we ask for any committee reports, so if that's any
Okay, so
council can
generally,
bring it up at any point in
anybody
time.
can talk about
Of course.
So just as a quick update, we met last week as an ad hoc search group. We met with our firm, Community Paradigm, and we discussed a timetable for how long this process would potentially take. So if folks didn't get the opportunity to tune into that and are invested in the next town manager, I would advise them to do so. Also to reach out to myself. There's also a town survey that's currently ongoing for folks to give feedback for that. I've emailed business owners, residents, and tried to get that out there as best as possible. I'm not great with social media, but I've seen it on social media, and I've tried to promote it there as well too. So again, just sharing this. I did hear from Community Paradigm that we are already in the tops for responses in terms of citizens in comparison to other towns in which they've worked with. They've worked with over 200 towns in Massachusetts, so I think that's something to be very proud of, but I think that we should continue getting that around and getting the word out about that so we can continue to create an avenue for folks to give us that feedback. So things are going well there, positive. We will meet again looking like the week of December 16th. The date is still yet to be confirmed, although I think we're getting close on our next potential, and that will be to tie up results of the survey and hopefully go into next steps of putting together a job description or a posting that will be made public for folks to apply to. So things are moving along in that sense, and I feel like we're on a good path.
Very good. Ms. Strigels.
I just wanted to commend Councilor Murphy and the entire ad hoc committee on their choice of Community Paradigm. I had the benefit of speaking to Mr. Lynch today at length, and anyone who is concerned about other counselors being able to voice their opinion as this process goes on, rest assured, I had a lengthy conversation that was mostly me driven that I really appreciated because I was able to give my opinion as someone who is not a member of the committee to voice things that my own constituents have given to me as tasks for the next town manager. So I would encourage you to keep sharing because the input is definitely there for everybody that's sitting around this council. And I encourage all of my counselors who have or haven't had the opportunity to take that time to speak with Mr. Lynch because it is definitely beneficial. And keep answering the survey. I think we were at like 165 or 170 when I last spoke with him this afternoon. So we want to beat all the other towns. So keep doing it.
Thank you, Ms. Strigels. Again, just to remind the other councilors, if you haven't had a chance to meet with them yet or have that Zoom call, please get that done as soon as possible.
Quick question.
Mr. Lundy.
Paul might have said it, but I might have missed it. Did you have the next? Did you say the next meeting date?
Yeah, it'll be the week of the 16th. I believe it'll be Thursday the 19th, but we haven't 100% confirmed that. It's not posted,
Okay.
but it will be that week sometime.
Thank you.
All right. Any other committee reports? Seeing none, Moving on. All right, so we got a lot of legislation for action here this evening, so we'll get to it. Order O FY 25-018, acceptance of grant funds, police municipal road safety grant. Looks like it was for the amount of $40,000. Budget and Finance Committee approved 5-0 at their 11:10 meeting, and Budget and Finance
3-0 at the meeting tonight.
3-0.
I'll move that.
And you'll make a motion to approve. Second for discussion? Mr. Eagles. Any further comments from town manager regarding it at all? Thank you. Any questions from any counselors? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the acceptance of these grant funds, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, we have Order OFY 25-019, acceptance of a gift, Town River Landing Pavilion. Let's see, get to that one right here. This was for a gift of $20,000. Finance Committee approved this 5-0. Budget and Finance?
3-0, and I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second for discussion.
Mr. Chase, for discussion, you have a question?
Just one point. I just think it's appropriate for us to acknowledge the generosity of McDonald Industries and the McDonald family for this generous donation. It's much appreciated.
I would agree with that sentiment. Any other questions or comments? Mr.
Like the
McKinnon?
last time, I'll also echo Fred's comments on that. We've put a lot of work down there, and it's great to see more people get involved, and it's awesome to see people that are already involved in town get involved too, so that's good.
Very good. Any further comments from the town manager on it? Okay, very good. All those in favor of approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have acceptance of a grant, Order OFY 25-020, Parkland Acquisitions and Renovations for Communities, Park Grant. Again, Finance Committee approved this 5-0 at their last meeting. Budget and Finance?
3-0 tonight, and I'll move that.
Okay, and this was $500,000, again, to go toward the renovation of the old mobile gas station, if I'm not...
Seconded.
And can we add one more thing in there? We found out at Budget and Finance Committee tonight.
A pledge by the BSU for $100,000 also towards the project.
No, fantastic. Very good. Excellent. So, any further discussion on the matter? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting of the grant, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And again, great news to hear from BSU. All right. Next up, Order OFY 25-021, a renaming of the Bridgewater Middle School. This measure was not referred to committee. 14 days has elapsed. We kept this at a council level. And again, this was introduced by Councilor Murphy and myself. This was an extension of what school committee had done years ago in suggesting renaming the middle school after former Superintendent Ed O'Donohue. And the class of '85 honored him as well by dedicating the yearbook. 2001, the school committee dedicated the middle school in his name. So this is back in front of us for final approval this evening. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and second by Mr. Eagles. Any further discussion on the matter? Seeing none, actually,
Just-
Mr. Murphy, did you have any more comments?
No, nothing.
Okay.
Just one.
Mr. Lindy.
I'm going to ask the school committee chair, or through you, or somehow, I'd love to see a picture of the gentleman up in the school.
Oh, I'm sure
people
that'll
know
be.
who he is.
Yeah, yes, that'll certainly be, I'm sure, taken care of. But thank you for that comment. All right, all those in favor of passing this order, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, Order OFY 25-022, reappointment of the acting town manager, Blythe Robinson. Again, this was not referred to a committee. We kept this at a council level, and 14 days has elapsed, so we can take action on this evening. Again, brought forth by me based on her time frame of her first 90 days being up on December 3rd. We really need to take action as a council to extend her for another 90 days. So do I have a motion to continue? Ms. Strigels, and a second by Mr. McKinnon for discussion. Mr. Murphy.
Yeah, I would just like to make a quick comment and thank Ms. Robinson. I think you've done an incredible job over the last 3 months, and citizens tonight got up and spoke to your responsiveness and your willingness to help them out. So I just wanted to thank you for that. I know it's going to be a tough position to jump in and be an acting town manager, but from my standpoint, you've done an incredible job, and I'm happy to support this.
Good. Any other councilors with any comments or questions? I would echo those same sentiments as well. I think she's done a great job, and look forward to seeing her fulfill the next 90 days. All those in favor of the reappointment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. She's here for another 90. All right. Next up, Order OFY 25-023, the FY 2025 classification tax allocation, adoption of a residential factor. This is a vote to refer to advertising. Budget and Finance Committee voted 5-0 to recommend. Budget and Finances?
3-0, and I'll move this.
And we have a motion by him, a second.
Second.
By Ms. Ellenberg. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor of support of this order, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. That will go to advertising. Item G, Order OFY 25-025, acceptance of donation from the Oleari Charitable Foundation. Looks like they donated $7,500 for the Bridgewater Public Library to fund the library's Cy Montgomery author event. This was approved 5-0 with the Finance Committee, Budget and Finance.
3-0, and I'll move this.
Thank you very much. Do I hear a second?
For discussion.
Mr. McKinnon for discussion. Mr.
Just want
McKinnon.
to thank the Oleari family. I believe it's at least twice to 3 times a year we vote on something like this. If it's not for the public library, it's for the police and all that, and they've always helped, so I just want to thank them for always donating to the community.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. I would agree with that sentiment. Any other comments by any councilors? Seeing none, all those in favor of passing this order, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you so much. All right, next up, we have Order OFY 25-026, General Fund Free Cash Allocation. Again, this was the moving of some funds. Ms. Robinson, would you like to make a quick comment on it again?
So this follows the town's annual process to take the free cash that's been certified by the state, which is just over $3.5 million, and transfer it to the various stabilization uses funds that the town sets aside for these purposes that are listed, and allocates from there when necessary for, say, capital expenditures.
Thank you very much. Finance Committee voted 5-0 to recommend. Budget and Finance?
3-0 to recommend, and I'll move this one too.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Mr. McKinnon. Any further discussion on the order? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. Next up, Order OFY 25-027, Transfer Order, Legal Employment and Collective Bargaining Agreement. Again, I will get a brief summary from the town manager on this.
So this is to transfer funds to allow us to retain Labor Council for contractual negotiations with our unions. Our chief negotiator was the former town manager and/or the assistant. They're both not here, so we needed to bring in some additional support. And then we have some insurance deductibles related to court actions that we need to pay our insurance company.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Finance voted 5-0 to recommend. Budget and Finance?
3-0, and I'll move this as well.
Thank you, Mr. Liddy. Second by Ms. Ellenberg. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None seen. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item J, Order OFY 25-028, Sewer Enterprise Fund Transfer. Again, I'll look for a brief introduction again by the town manager.
The town needs to begin the design process of the second phase of our upgrades to our wastewater treatment plant to remove phosphorus and other materials from the wastewater process due to a consent order that needs to be completed by 2030 or 31. So $704,000 will pay for OPM and engineering services.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Finance Committee voted 5-0 to recommend. Budget and Finance?
3-0 to recommend, and I'll move this as well.
Second
Thank
for
you, Mr. Lee.
discussion.
Second, Mr. McKinnon for discussion. Please, go
I
ahead.
believe I can ask this question because it's talking about sewer phase 2. Is phase 1 finished? I know it was around December we're aiming for.
It was supposed to finish in December. I'm not
Yeah.
sure it's going to quite finish in December. It's
Right.
getting close.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. Any further questions? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor of passing this order, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. And item K, Order OFY 25-029, Transfer Station Retained Earnings. Again, I'll look to the town manager for a brief description of this.
A transfer of just under $52,000 for both salary and expenses. Salaries for adjustment in the full-time salary of the manager of the station, and to allow us to be able to bring on a part-time person so that manager can take time off now and again and back him up. And then some repairs or replacement of equipment is the expense.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Finance Committee voted 5-0 to recommend. Budget and Finance?
3-0 to recommend, and I'll move this.
Thank you, Mr. Liddy. Second?
Second.
Ms. Striggles. Any further discussion on the item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. Let's see, moving on to item L, Order OFY 25-030, Bridgewater Rainham Regional School District Capital Plan Transfers. Again, I'll refer this to the town manager for a brief description.
So the FY25 budget that was agreed to included this amount in capital improvements for the regional school district, the Bridgewater's share. So it's transferring it from our capital stabilization to the school district.
Thank you,
and
Ms.
there's a
Robin.
list in your packet of exactly what they're going to do.
Yes, we had details on that. Thank you very much. Let's see, Finance Committee voted 5-0 to recommend this. Budget and Finance?
3-0 to recommend, and I'll move this.
Thank you very much. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. McKinnon. Any discussion?
Yes,
Ms. Ellenberg.
I would like the town manager just to, for the purpose of the public, itemize what is on the chart so people know what the money, the $1 million, is being spent for. Because they don't have our
I think
package.
it is there.
Okay,
But it's,
all right.
And it's on the website, so the public has access.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. Next up, resolution RFY 25-003, the FY 2026 budget resolution. This was introduced by myself. This is a yearly resolution that the council brings forward just to help guide the town manager and those working on the budget to guide them in the process, and certainly what our goals are as a council regarding that. It's similar language that we've done in a number of years past, and has kept us on a pretty straight path as far as budgeting goes for the town. We voted to keep this this got referred to the Finance Committee 5-0 to recommend. Budget and Finance?
3-0 to recommend, and I will move this.
Thank you, Mr. Liddy. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McKinnon. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And finally, into this topic, proposed ordinance D FY 25-002, revisions to the admin code. This has been referred to advertising. Rules and procedures voted 3-0 to recommend. Well, I'll ask Mr. Chase for some more comments on what rules and procedures went over on this. But tonight's vote is to refer to advertising.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We were presented on the Rules and Procedures Committee with a package of proposed amendments to our administrative code. These are largely housekeeping matters, some very administrative in nature. For the most part, they were quite straightforward. There were, in fact, this package contains 11 specific items upon which we voted changes. Some of these were based upon recommendations I know that were previously delivered from our former town manager. And they, again, for the most part, these are quite administrative in nature. I do have a list of all 11. I can tell you that we by vote of 3-0 in each case approved the language that appears in the package. First item is a clarification of term of office, and the second being a clarification as to eligibility of persons to serve on multi-member boards here in the town. Thirdly, we left the Affordable Housing Trust provision that's in the administrative code right now unchanged. We made no edit there because, frankly, we didn't have the context in which to really discuss that. So perhaps that'll be revised in the future. Similarly, a follow-on section of the code which related to the Affordable Housing Trust, we similarly left that unchanged. We recommended changes to the Elder Affairs Commission. We approved an amendment to the Historical Commission to change its status to ministerial. We recommended deletion of the Housing Partnership Committee, which we understand to be effectively a defunct body, no longer active. Similarly, we recommended the deletion of the Master Plan Committee. We recommended changes to the Tree Committee, specifically to allow a non-resident certified arborist to serve on the Tree Committee. We recommended changes to the qualification standards for the Water and Sewer Board to require engineering or public health experience of those members. And we adopted an amendment to require response to citizen comments by entry of an agenda item at a future meeting. So in substance, in a nutshell, that really describes what our action was in each of these areas.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Can I get a motion to send to advertising and a second for discussion?
Yes, a second for discussion.
Well, I need an initial.
So
motion.
moved.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. Second for discussion, Ms. Ellenberg. Ms. Ellenberg,
Yes.
you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I noticed you made one committee ministerial. The Community Preservation Committee has not been made ministerial, is my understanding from my reading of this. Now, the Community Preservation Committee is the one that renovated Town Hall here and
Understood.
is in charge of the old Town Hall.
There was not a matter referred to the Rules and Procedures Committee with respect to the Community Preservation Committee.
Well, so because you had no recommendation to make them ministerial,
We can only act on what is referred to us from this council.
I see. Okay. Well, I would like to amend this motion to make the Community Preservation
It's an
Committee.
entirely new matter.
That's right. So it's not in the initial context of the revisions of the admin code that was put forth, actually by myself, but through the prior town manager and moved forward to rules and procedures.
Yes. If
That
I-
would have to be a separate matter or another ordinance per se to
Okay.
make revisions of the code.
I have heard that the college is looking at the old town hall. I have heard from many constituents that they do not want that to happen. The Community Preservation Committee will keep it for the townspeople.
I understand, but this has nothing to do with the changes to the code that we're working on.
Well, yes, we could refuse to vote this in until an amendment is made, or we could continue this until an amendment is made for the Community
Well,
Preservation
again, that
Committee.
could be a separate ordinance that you could certainly introduce at a later time, but we're just acting on what's in front of us right now. That's been reviewed by Rules and Procedures.
Okay. I do not support this because the Community Preservation Committee is not given proper status. Thank you.
Duly noted. So, any other questions or comments? Ms. McGrath?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just wondering, was this a Zoom meeting for the rules and procedures?
I am not sure, Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Yes,
I
it was.
can't find it.
Or I.
Because
It was a lengthy meeting.
was it? I imagined. I wanted to hear
I
your.
think in excess of an hour.
That was our longest one for a while, for
Yeah.
sure.
So I'm looking forward to hearing.
What was the date that you met, Counselor Chase? What was the date? What was the date that you met on that? Do you recall?
10/8.
I'm sorry?
10/8. So at this point, it should be posted, I would imagine,
Yeah,
by now.
I've been looking because I was concerned about the affordable housing. No, I know you don't know. I just wanted to make sure,
Right.
because at the affordable housing, if you take the word trust out, then we can't get the money in the trust fund, and there's money in there.
Well, see, all of that is context we weren't privy to.
Should we be
Okay.
passing
I
it?
had sent information. Did they get that information? Those, my concerns? Remember I sent it to you and you had to hold it until the meeting? I can resend
It
it
can
to
be
you.
brought forward again.
Okay,
as a
I appreciate
separate
that.
matter.
Okay.
Under section...
Mr. Chase, just quickly on that, did I hear you say earlier that you had not made any recommendations on amending the Affordable Housing Trust language that's currently in the code?
That is correct.
Okay, so it wouldn't impact that anyhow. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I didn't want to make sure I heard you correctly.
And it doesn't look like the word trust has been removed. It's affordable was removed, but it says Housing Trust Committee.
Yeah, but we did not approve those
They
changes.
did not adopt that.
They
That's what I'm saying. I
Oh,
think
I
that's
see.
what
Oh, I
the
see.
I'm trying to clarify what the confusion might be.
I understand.
You see there's like redlined
Yeah,
about
it's black
that.
and white for me.
Yeah. Well, it's crossed out on mine,
Okay.
online. But now that what I heard, the description is a little different than what I see there. So I think you're just going to have to make sure you match those up if you adopt it.
Yes. Mr. McKinnon?
Just a point of information. It's actually not on the town of Bridgewater's YouTube. I'm on it right now.
That particular meeting?
Yes.
Maybe
So maybe
through
that's
our
something we
town,
need to look into.
Council Secretary, we can look into that. Thank you. Mr. Lindy?
So the procedure for things to change with different committees is that legislation has to get referred to rules and procedures, correct? So if there's
Well,
another group in town.
To the council, and the council would refer
Council.
to rules and procedures.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lindy. So again, this vote is to refer to advertising, okay? We're not taking action on it at this moment. All those in favor of sending to advertising, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. 1 nay, 7-1, motion passes. Thank you. All right, takes care of legislation for action. We do not have old business. We have already taken care of new business. So that brings us back to citizen comments for those that have chose to stay for the remainder of the evening. And we thank you for your patience and diligence. Again, as I usually state, due to Mass Open Meeting Law requirements, discussions will not take place during our public comment period. If appropriate, responses to the questions and concerns will be given by the town manager at a future town council meeting. Please again state your name and address for the record and keep it to 3 minutes. Thank you. Sam, go right ahead.
Sam Baumgarten, 60 Short Street. I needed to come up once more because I was concerned and unhappy about some of the comments I heard earlier this evening during the first round of citizens' comments about the folks in the LGBTQ plus community or people of color. I fly the American flag, and I consider myself a proud American, and I appreciate the fact that our military and our vets and those who are either POW or MIA have fought for that flag and have fought for equity and freedom and inclusion. But in my view, we have not realized everything that was fought for. Not everybody in this country is treated equitably or is included, and is in fact, many are discriminated against and are excluded. And I think that's the point to why I feel it's important that our government here makes a government statement about recognizing those groups and giving them a feeling of being included and feeling like Bridgewater is a place where they are welcome. I stand here before you as a white, straight male who has every privilege in the world. There are others who are not white, not straight, and not male, who do not have the same privilege as I have. And I think we need to recognize those exclusions. And finally, I want to point out to you what's happened at our university over the past, I don't know how many years now, since we formed the Martin Richard Institute for Social Justice, since Bridgewater made a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, 3 letters which are taking a hit and should not. That university has been transformed into a diverse place, a welcoming place. The population looks more like America, and I think you should not forget that. That's what happens when people are committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we, this council, I hope, will keep that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Anybody else like to come up and speak?
Hi, my name is Lisa Bazell Curley. I'm 91 Atkinson Drive. I have the distinct honor of being at the council meeting when this was discussed. I sit on the Veterans Council. It was never about removing the pride flag or not allowing the Juneteenth flag to be flown. So where that has come up from, I can speculate, and I'll go to that in a minute. It was about righting a wrong. The POW flag had not been flown, and we were looking to fix that. That was our goal. The people sitting in that room, and I was there, no one else here can say that, I was there, that was our goal. It was not to divide our town, it was not to make people feel marginalized, it was nothing like that. I am the mother of a gay child, I am the grandmother of a biracial child, and I am the foster mother of a 19-year-old African-American male. So I don't care to be called racist or anything else because I believe that the American flag should fly with the POW flag. I will also go on record as saying I am a person who believes that only the American flag, the POW flag, and our town and state flags belong on a town, state, or federal building. Not because I have an issue with any other flag, but because I have an issue with the people and the groups that are going to come in here, despite what Mr. Chase seems to think, that he's made that you have some kind of written ordinance. It's not going to allow that, and I'm sure I'm using the wrong vernacular, but some kind of written program that's not going to allow those other groups to come in, and that is really going to divide our town. I prefer to see only the ones I mentioned. However, I do believe in compromise. So a second flagpole, or whatever we decide it might need to be, we have to come to some kind of conclusion with this. The 9/11 flagpole is not where it belongs. I don't understand why anybody doesn't understand that. It has been dedicated to a certain group of people that are not the ones we're talking about. In addition, I'm going to try to say this as nicely as I can because I'm a preschool teacher and a mom, and I believe in trying to be, there's perspective is a very powerful thing. There was a gentleman in here tonight that said he thought he saw a lot of things coming to light. I disagree with him. I saw some people passionate about the subject they want to talk about on both sides. I'm glad that we can all air those views, and as far as the things that you heard on Facebook, I don't know where those came from, but I took a very personal responsibility to make sure when I saw comments up on Facebook, correcting them, because I've been at the meetings. And I said that the BRRC has been nothing but respectful of this topic. I never said anybody from that group wanted to get rid of the POW flag. In fact, I corrected people who said differently. My apologies, I am a little bit nervous. But we're not going to get anywhere by tabling it and not just making a decision. You know what, I'm a big, huge volunteer. I think most of you know that in this town. I run 3 nonprofits. I sit on several boards in town. I consider my volunteer position to be one of the most important things I do. So I hate very much to say anything poorly to anybody who stepped up and done what you guys are doing. But I take exception to the comments that were put towards Ms. McGrath this evening, because when she did what she did 2 weeks ago, she did that because she was listening to the Veterans Council and the constituents that she's been talking to. She did it because their ordinance isn't being heard. It seems to be sitting out somewhere, I don't know, but it seems to be being ignored so other people can bring forth theirs, and theirs is going to get addressed beforehand, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to understand I know all the pomp and circumstance you guys go through, because I sit here and I'm like, oh my God, this is why we get nothing done. And I feel for you, because your hands are probably tied in a lot of ways. But I just need it to be understood. The Veterans Council never, ever, there was no conversation that said, let's get the pride flag removed. Let's make Juneteenth, make sure they don't get to fly theirs. That was never, ever a topic of conversation. It was simply trying to fix the POW flag not being flown. That was our only agenda. That was our only goal. And then we were told the flag had to come down in 2 days, or maybe it was 3, I don't have the exact number, but 2 people in town complained. 2 people. What do we have, about 28,000? I'll make it quick, sorry. And then there was the people that came in and said their flag wouldn't fly third to any. That's where your big controversy came in. That's where the problem is.
Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it. Anybody else like to come up and speak? Ms. Hanson.
Janet Hanson, 665 Pleasant Street. As far as the flag is concerned, I still don't understand why this even has to be an ordinance or whatever. I mean, it's a federal thing. The flag should be, it used to be flown, so why do we have to make it a rule or ordinance that it has to be flown? It's both, the federal thing is that whenever the American flag is up, it can be up, if you so choose, up there. There shouldn't be any discussion, period. Put it up. We don't need tabling or nothing. Just put the thing up. And the other is, I do agree with Councilor McGrath about the tree committee, you know, getting them involved, and I'm sure they would like to be. I know we talked about Concom. There's got to be some way of these committees, short of public doing an appeal through DEP or whatever, there's got to be some way of holding accountability for something that really isn't right. We need to protect the NIP. We have to pay attention to what's happening down there. And we, in this community, have let a lot of things go, not just at the NIP, but other places. Everything's being, what's the point of having a 100-foot buffer if they're going to allow everything to be built in it? And 25-foot no-touch is the same, is shorter than your vacuum cleaner cord. That's not a lot of no-touch. And the other thing I have is on Section 14 of the code. I know it's going to advertising. I still feel that that needs to be tweaked. I understand you can't talk about a major thing that could become an agenda, but please make it an agenda. Don't let it just disappear. And please try to have it so that you can answer a simple question, nothing that requires the town manager involved. I think you need to tweak that. It's too not letting us have an answer. Which brings me to, I think you can tell, I appreciate everybody, and I know you try to answer, but you can tell from other comments, we don't feel like we're being answered. You know, no fault necessarily, but the way it works, I and my others, we feel there's a lot of times we're just not getting answers. And again, I appreciate everything that everybody does, but I just, something's got to change. But I am concerned about Section 14. I just feel the flag should just be put up. We don't need to wait for something to be untabled. And just put it up. And because it's allowed. President Trump in 2016 says it's allowed, and it just needs to be. But that's all I can think of right now. But the tree committee and whatever. So I hear my time is up. So thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Anybody else like to come up and speak? Please, MJ.
MJ Spagone, 5 Lakeshore Center, Unit 1128. I'm going to take off my citizen hat and put on my citizen volunteer hat. As Mr. Lindy had alluded to earlier this evening, I was voted by my colleagues on the Finance Committee as chair of the Finance Committee, and I look forward to working with the council in the budget process for FY26. I do want to give you a little bit of background, not just for the council's edification, but also for the public's edification. Lifelong resident of the town. I've been on the Finance Committee since I came back to town in 2021. I had a short stint in Middleborough. We don't talk about that. But I also have a wide range of public service experience, having worked at the State House, interned in Washington, D.C., and I currently serve as the actually have two roles in the city of Marlborough. I serve as their city collector assistant finance director and presently their interim city comptroller / treasurer. So I do come with a wide range of financial experience from a municipal perspective, and I look forward to sharing that with you throughout the budget process. However we want to communicate, I am an open book, and I'm available for a conversation and meeting at any time. So with that, Mr. President, I will yield back the balance of my time for the evening.
Thank you, MJ. Anybody else like to come up and speak? Going once, going twice. All right. Thank you for those that came up to speak. All right. So we'll move on to council comments. I'll start with Ms. McGrath to my left.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank the fire chief for inviting us to the fire station ceremony. It's very impressive, and I know they're all happy about it, and I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Ms. McGrath. Ms. Driggles.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with Councilor McGrath. It was an excellent ceremony, and I won't soon forget having to put my name on that beam. So that was a pretty cool thing. As a lifelong resident of Bridgewater, I never thought I would see the day that I have my name on a beam somewhere in town. I wasn't present at the last meeting that we had. I was in the middle of a travel situation, so I did want to kind of combine some comments that I would have had then and then tonight's comments as well. I want to start by congratulating our Bridgewater varsity cheerleaders. They won the game day state championship. As an alum of BRVC, I am very proud of them and all of what they continue to do year after year. I also want to be able to publicly thank Councilor Robinson. I obviously was not here to be able to do that, and I wanted to take the time to be able to do that in front of everyone. She means a lot to me as a fellow councilor because she ensured my transition onto council was smooth, welcoming, and was also very encouraging throughout the process. She's an excellent person, wife, mother, and now to me a friend. She always stood her ground, let all voices be heard, and I really hope that we see her back in this body very soon. She did a lot of good work. I also want to publicly express condolences to the family of Chris Renzi. I grew up with his oldest daughter. I have always been very close with their family, and I spent countless moments in their home. I know Councilor Chase was their neighbor for a very long time, and he was a very, very, very devoted part of the Bridgewater Badgers youth football program, and we're really going to miss him, both in town and just in our lives in general. And finally, in regards to comments that we've heard this evening, someone's identity is not of special interest, ever. Our fellow citizens that are a part of the LGBTQIA+ community aren't practicing a lifestyle. They are being exactly who they are. I am equal parts the granddaughter of a World War II veteran and a man who was born without equal rights in this country. I take both flags very seriously, just like I take the American flag very seriously. I'm truly curious why now is the time that we're hearing all of this backpedaling on these two flags when they've been flown in this town for years. While we try and right wrongs of the POW MIA flag that should have been flying this entire time, I am in full agreement of that, I don't want our town to go backwards either. We've grown leaps and bounds, and our town is better because of that. And everyone here listening and at home in your heart should know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. Mr. Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. I certainly concur with your comments, Councilor, with respect to the Renzi family. The passing of Chris Renzi was a very unfortunate, a very he suffered quite a bit and certainly passed long before his time. They were very good friends and neighbors, next door neighbors of myself and my wife and children. And I was not able to attend his wake. I was actually teaching an online class that day, but nonetheless, I convey my thoughts to the family and friends of Chris Renzi. Just with respect to the fire department topping off ceremony, that was a very encouraging, very gratifying event to be part of. I appreciate the opportunity to have been there to just take part in it and to speak with the fire chiefs and with all the other attendees. It's so encouraging to see something really come to fruition. You know, we debate some matters here endlessly, and many things, even if they happen to actually progress and come into being, we don't necessarily have a part in being there to see it happen. So it was encouraging from that respect to have an opportunity to view that. I do plan to introduce an order to propose that an additional flagpole be considered. I'd like to frame it as the need for a feasibility study, which would talk about things like location and other factors. I was really heartened to hear the encouraging comments in support of that notion. Councilor Lindy first introduced that concept some weeks ago, and there was actually a great deal of comment tonight supportive of that notion. So I think it is time for us to consider that as an option to really give all parties involved an adequate opportunity to participate in flag raising ceremonies, for example. I think I'd just like to say otherwise. I want to wish everyone in the community a happy Thanksgiving, a happy and safe Thanksgiving, and particularly I'll pay tribute to the first responders and medical people who will need to work on the holiday and the holiday weekend to just help ensure the safety of everyone else. So hats off to them. And I think that's really all I had to say this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Mr. Lindy.
Wow, lots of comments that I agree with. First of all, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I am very glad that I don't have to do, I don't know if Brad's volunteering, but I don't have to do high school football anymore after doing it for 37 years. Always good to see the game, though, on TV in a nice warm house. I would like to ask down the road that we invite the town clerk to come and speak about the recent election and how everything worked well and cost savings and different things like that. So, you know, either a presentation or a discussion. If you look at the Common tonight, you look out the window, you drive down the street, you see all the lights from Winter Wonderful. They didn't do a ceremony because our former town clerk, Marilee Hunt, ran the election in Norton on a last-minute basis, so we didn't flip the switch, but the lights are all up, and there are additional lights on, you know, over near the Walgreens. It looks phenomenal. The group obviously raises money. They're trying to get ahead for next year to raise more money, so anybody that wants to donate. And they are doing the typical, all the different groups in town go to Barrett's and do 20% if you go and eat. They're starting that on the 3rd. I think they're doing a couple of nights to do that, so if you're going out anyway, go there. I would like to echo one of the citizen comments from earlier about in-person meetings of town boards and council committees and things like that. We did Zoom because Zoom was what we had to do during the COVID-19 pandemic. Zoom is convenient and inconvenient. It works and it doesn't work. I personally like in-person meetings in this chamber, in the meeting room down the hall, and wherever else that we can post meetings. So I would love to see us retire that whole option or maybe make it a hybrid option. The fire department ceremony was wonderful. I was very glad, and I feel like you do. It's kind of nice to sign a beam that's going to be buried in a wall, never to be seen again. And I'm wearing this blue pin, which was originally No Place for Hate with Jewish people. It's been expanded because Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, has suggested that people wear this. No hate in our town, no division. Let's figure out how to all get along and play in the sandbox well together. And as far as the council vacancy, I have kind of mixed feelings because I went through that process, as Fred outlined, as a district councilor. But if you are out there watching, or you come to these meetings, you like what you see, you don't like what you see, step up to the plate. Don't sit on the sidelines, don't criticize. If there is going to be a vacancy, if you don't apply for the vacancy, there's going to be seats up for the April election. That's what democracy is all about. I'm telling my students in my 2 classes, the ones that didn't vote, I don't really care what you have to say because you chose not to participate in the process. I'm not saying that about citizens that may or may not have time to serve on this body, but I'd love to see people step up to the plate. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Lindy. Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, just keeping it short and sweet, I'd just like to reiterate again tonight that my tabling motion meant nothing more than for us to understand the full scope of what we were voting on tonight. I think that was important. Several citizens came up, spoke to it. So I saw that as an opportunity for us to just dig a little deeper, do a little more homework, and then come back with a plan, understanding that we will at some point have to make a very tough decision, but I thought taking the time to understand what that decision means and having all our options available to us was important in that time. And so I hope folks understand that, and wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Ms. Ellenberg?
Yes, I saw, I believe it was at the Mass Maritime, they had a flagpole with the 2 flags. Then they had a T formation, and coming down in a diamond was all sorts of other flags. I believe there was 4 per side on the diamond formation. I'm just proposing that as something that could be dealt with here in our town. About the issue about getting answers to the public. First of all, I agree with Mr. Lindy. We need to have in-person meetings. The time for Zoom is over. That will also make our public officials accountable, having people looking at them. Now, another point I would like to make in terms of getting answers to the public, and that is that the counselors should be able to speak, have counselor comments after the public, at the beginning of the meeting, and again at the end. So I would ask our president to consider such a modification of our procedure. I also like hearing committee reports, like from MJ. I think those would be improved if they were brought here in front of the public so the committees can be responding and informing the public what's going on in some of these lesser committees. Lastly, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Ellenberg. Mr. McKinnon?
3 quick things. So before this meeting, I had no idea anyone was interested in running, and to the 4 people that are, I definitely appreciate you guys wanting to step up, especially you, Mr. Loretti, for coming in here and speaking to us and giving us these pretty good-looking resumes. I mean, I like the engineering thing for sure, I'll tell you that. But to go on to my second point, I want to thank the team at Winter Wonderland, what do they call it?
Winter Wonderful.
Winter Wonderful over there for making the center look beautiful again. It's unlucky we didn't get a ceremony, but hey, the lights are on and it looks great. And then I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to all my fellow counselors and everyone else in attendance and at home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. So, to finish it off, again, I'd certainly like to, acknowledge the topping off ceremony at the fire station. It was great to have all those that attended there. Very important step in the process of that building being built, and it's, again, kind of cool knowing your signatures on a beam in that building somewhere to stay there forever. But again, I look forward to the fire station being completed and hopefully get our firefighters into a much better situation, building-wise. I certainly, again, want to extend my condolences to the Renzi family. Chris was my youngest son's football coach for many years, and he was one of my son's favorite coaches on that team. So, again, I wasn't able to make his wake, but I certainly want to extend publicly my condolences to the Renzi family. I also want to announce, outside of Winter Wonderful being up, the Lions will be putting up their decorations the Saturday morning after Thanksgiving. We'll be there at 9 a.m., so if there are any volunteers that want to help out moving some of the pieces around to help us out as Lions, we welcome your help that morning. But our decorations in combination with Winter Wonderful, the Common will look all ready for the weekend, and certainly because of the lateness of Thanksgiving, December 1st is going to be Christmas on the Common right off the bat. So I do believe that's running from 10 to 4 with a parade to start off the event put on by the BBA. So look forward to seeing everybody there. Again, thanks to the BIA for the work they did too, again, on Winter Wonderful. I think the combination of their lights and the Lions decorations is something to behold as a town, and I think everyone in town enjoys them. In regards to the flag, I've had a number of conversations with the veterans agent talking about potential adding flagpoles, adding yard arms off the existing flagpoles, as Ms. Ellenberg mentioned, like in Mass Maritime. So I think there's definitely some way we can find a way to create some compromise that we can move forward as a community, and everyone can be proud of what we're doing as a community. Just going to take a little vetting and planning to get there. In regards to the council vacancy, I appreciate Johnny being here tonight and putting his name in. I do have names of 3 other candidates who've emailed me information. It's also gone to the council secretary. Again, I encourage anyone else who wants to put their name in to please do so. Again, we're going through a process as a council. As a couple of councilors did make comment, it's not, we do not have to make the appointment. We can keep the seat open until the next election. It's the decision of the council to make, but I do want to have the option to go either way, either to make an appointment of someone that's put the name in for it, or, obviously going the other way. But if we do not make an appointment, I would certainly encourage those people who are putting their names in to also fill out, the nomination papers and put your names in at the next election, because we obviously need candidates to have an election to fill out this board when we get to that point in time. But we'll see where the process takes us in the next couple of meetings. So please continue to put your interest in to the council secretary. You have until December 10th, once again. And just a quick comment on the committees in the Zoom. I agree. I do, again, like to meet in person. I think some good things happen better in person than maybe over Zoom. But Zoom is allowing some people to be on committees that could not necessarily be on those committees because of where they work or where they're located. So we might be cutting down our amount of people that could volunteer for these committees if we eliminate Zoom. So I just want people to keep that in mind. If we can find a way to hybridize it, or alternate in person versus Zoom, to give people a chance to see things in person, there's got to be some middle ground to find on that. But again, we need volunteers to fill out these committees, so if Zoom helps us do that, it's something that does help. And finally, just to wish everyone a very safe and happy Thanksgiving season. If you have to travel, please be safe. It's supposed to be one of the busiest times of travel in our history, I guess, according to the newsmakers out there. Flying is up to record numbers, as well as people on the roads. And the weather might not be cooperating in some areas. Some areas are getting snow, some areas are getting rain, so please be safe. Hopefully get to your family members as safely as possible and have a wonderful holiday season. And that'll continue, obviously, into Christmas. So I have nothing else, so I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second. Ms. Striggles, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are in adjournment. Thank you all for coming.